Is this recorded? Yeah, yeah. I got most of it recorded. So if you missed any of it, I will post it to YouTube. All right, everyone, do give it a second for people to join up. I'm gonna give it a minute because sometimes it just like caps it out. But why is there no background? Because I don't have like a veganism background. Plus, like I'm not like coming on here to debate veganism often. This is just like a kind of a one-time thing. I'm not really expecting to debate veganism a lot. Because I mean, I think people like vegans especially like misunderstood like the whole why we brought up the vegan teacher thing. It wasn't for veganism. But yes, let me get Mike up real quick and we'll continue the debate. You there?
Yeah.
For sure. I think it's fine now. Chat, is it glitching? It might lag. Some people said lagging issues across the whole app. Okay. Okay, it's good. All right, let me know if it's lagging in chat, everyone. If it's lagging, I don't know what we'll do. Maybe we'll set it up for a different time, or I don't know. I don't care what we do. So did you read it? Did you find if it said annually or
Well,
I mean
yes,
not annually, if it said by world or by country?
it says region specific, so I'm assuming it means region.
Where does it say that?
The first column.
The first column?
Yeah.
You mean on the right side?
Left side.
That's not talking about the same stuff. Yeah, it says region-specific diets. The region-specific diets are the VGT, VEG, and the HGD. That's not talking about the estimation numbers for the economic impact.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, whether or not it's global or countrywide.
Oh, it actually changes a lot, yeah.
Yeah, but look, even 200 billion a year is a huge amount of savings, right? The
No,
point
it's not.
is,
Appreciate the subscription. Thank you so much. You know how big the global economy is?
200 billion dollars per year.
As compared to the global economy. Mike, what is the GDP of the United States?
Look, you think saving $200 billion a year is
Mike,
bad.
I want you to tell me what the GDP of the United States is.
It's like 21 trillion.
Yeah. So that's a small percentage of the entirety of of the world, right? If you talk about the world's overall global assets, we have like 140 trillion. Okay, saving $230 billion
In
right?
America, bro, $200 billion.
No, not just. Hey, Mike, appreciate the galaxy. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Parker, this is so disingenuous. Just listen to me. I can't believe you're actually saying.
Can I finish the explanation?
Do you think $200 billion in savings is better than $200 wasted?
Yes, obviously. But
Okay,
like I'm saying,
why the fuck would you be against this?
Mike, I'm not, because I'm saying that as it relates to the priority. I'm not going to do absolutely everything because it's going to save this, right? If we specifically reduced consumption in a particular category by a little bit, we could also save a few $100 billion globally, right? If we all directed that action in that particular way, right? So there are plenty of other things that we could do that would save money like this. Okay, so if we're talking globally, this isn't an extreme amount of money to like hinge. Wait, hold on, Mike. This isn't an extreme amount of money to hinge an argument on, right?
Bro, I can't believe you're actually doing this. There are clear benefits and utility to going vegan, and this is just one of a myriad of examples, right? Like the economic reasons.
Sure, you could say that this is a small benefit. Yeah.
Did you know that promoting veganism and closing the gap between humans and animals actually promotes less racism and less bigotry and less racism and less homophobia? Did you know that?
Can you give me a source?
Sure, no problem.
There's a causal relation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely is.
Give me a causal relation.
Yeah, gender differences in vegetarian identity. Here's
That's a correlation.
Here's one called animalizing women and feminizing.
No. I want one that gives a causation.
Yeah, right here.
Gender differences what?
Animalizing women and feminizing vegan men.
No. And what was the first one? Gender differences in what?
The first one was gender differences in vegetarian identity. But that was just showing you that people that are vegetarian have, I don't know, they are construed differently in terms of their gender.
Wait. So where in this source specifically?
That was not the one I was trying to talk to you about.
So then why are you giving me that as a source?
I gave you this one. Give me this one now. Animalizing.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to like not read it or something? Like, I can't believe this.
No, I don't know why you'd give me a source that wasn't relevant to what I was just asking for. Like you said it. I was just clarifying, dude.
Yeah, so animalizing women and feminizing vegan men, the psychological intersections of sexism, speciesism, and meat and masculinity.
I'm not going to be able to remember that off the top of my head. And so, animalizing women and feminizing men. And then what's next?
Yeah, the psychological intersections of sexism, speciesism.
Intersections between veganism. What else?
Between sexism, speciesism, meat, and masculinity.
Sexism, speciesism, and masculinity?
Yeah. What it basically shows is that, like, people who are like you, speciesist, that's typically tied.
You're actually speciesist as well, Mike. You already conceded that to that earlier.
I'm actually not. Okay.
Yeah, you are, because you have completely different values for humans and non-humans.
Doesn't make you speciesist.
Yeah, that's exactly what a species is.
No, because I think all species should have rights.
Oh, okay. So you just define species as like you don't consider all animals should have rights?
All animals should have rights.
So squirrels should have rights?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. They have right to live. They have the right to live and be free and to be happy.
Yeah. So like, should we try to prevent like from like what's it called? Species from killing other species?
We should if we can.
We should if we can. So we should go into the ocean and stop, different types of ocean life from killing each other.
If it's going to lead to a net negative and we can easily solve that, fuck yeah. That's what we already do. We already do this.
So we go in there and we specifically like put some of them in prison if they do something bad.
We don't. I didn't say prison. What I'm saying is.
Oh, so you just like wipe them out?
I do. We actually do conservation.
So do you wipe them out? Do you kill them?
No, we don't wipe them out. We conserve the species, right?
And how do you conserve the species?
We, protect the environments. We
by doing what?
Wipe out predators or do things like that.
Wipe out predators? So you think it's justified to kill predators? If
they're causing a net negative utility, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
But the point is that like we have to be practical about this, right? Practicable. Most of the time, it's not going to be morally easy or accessible.
So why don't we put lions in prison? Because like killing them would be more net negative, right?
I never said we put lions in prison.
No, we should though, because that would be more humane to treat them by putting them in prison rather than like killing them. Because killing them would be a moral wrong because they're sentient.
Stop! This is so ridiculous.
I know why not? Why not? You put humans in prison. Why don't you put animals in prison?
Stop, bro. Stop. This is so disingenuous.
Wait, how is this disingenuous? You just ran NTT. I asked the same thing back.
Stop. Let me speak, bro. Okay. I'm not saying to treat lions like people. What I'm saying is all living beings, all animals have the right to live. We should not go harm them if we don't have to. Now, of course, under my deontics, threshold deontics, I would say that there is a threshold in which the consequences of not doing anything are going to be severe enough to warrant, perhaps bending the rules a bit. But the point is that you are speciesist because you think that some animals don't deserve rights. Okay. And that's what's tied a lot to sexism, dehumanization, right? To women, misogyny. All these things are related to each other. In the study I just presented to you.
Those are just correlations. Nowhere in this study does it say causation.
Yes. And the study shows that, efforts.
Show me, where does it say causation?
Just because correlation can point to causation.
Okay. So then show me how it's pointing towards causation.
Because we've shown that a lot of research has shown that closing the gaps between humans and animals reduces outgroup dehumanization, right?
So it can lead to lesser levels of this because there's correlations.
Can I finish? It actually helps people's perceptions in more favored of, social justice.
So all this tells me is that vegans are more likely to be involved in social justice, which is likely to be true because...
No, it's not on
Can I finish?
It's not on vegans.
Yeah, vegans and vegetarians are more likely to be involved in social justice. That's the only claim that you're making here.
No, the point is that when we close the gap of the, this, like you think that humans are superior, but when we close this gap, right?
You do too.
No, I don't. I don't think they're superior in terms of rights.
In terms of value, I mean, because like if you look at the common definitions for speciesism, it's just saying that like humans are more of important value comparative to non-humans, which you actually agree with. So you're a speciesist based on that definition. Based on this new definition you're using that you're showing here, you wouldn't be a speciesist, but based on the common definition that people use of speciesism in terms of the importance or value that individuals would have, you are a speciesist.
No, speciesism means like you you treat a certain particular group of species a certain way. All right, that's what I'm not doing. Right.
So it says in applied ethics and the philosophy of animal rights, the practice of Belova, I appreciate the galaxy. Thank you so much. The practice of treating members of one species as more morally important than members of another species. Also, the belief that the practice is justified.
Yeah, I don't think humanity is more important than any other species in terms of.
The belief. No, it says no. I read that wrong. It says also that the belief that this practice is justified. So the practice of saying value is greater for humans comparative to non-humans. That's what the Britannica definition indicates.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not my position. I don't think that that humans have any more rights over the animals, or that we are somehow superior as a species.
So we're not superior in value?
Individually speaking, of course, I'm more valuable than you in my view, right? Like the point is, value is irrelevant.
Really?
Absolutely.
Mike, I'm not more valuable than you example, under my view.
Like, for example, if there was like a situation where I had survived, I would definitely save myself over you.
But that doesn't mean morally speaking I see it to be justified.
That means I value
me. Mike, that doesn't mean I morally speaking see it to be justified.
And you value me more. You value yourself more than me, right?
No, I value us equally as humans.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So if
like from a moral standpoint, yeah.
So if you were starving, you would allow me to live.
Mike, actually, I'm genuinely serious. I would.
Okay, great. So you would allow me to live if I was starving. What if somebody had to die? They had a gun on you or me. Would you pick me or you?
I would pick myself to die.
You would die for me.
Yes.
No, you wouldn't, Parker. You would not die for me. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. You would really die for me.
Mm-hmm. If I'm indifferent to the value, I would like it rather to be me rather than be another
that's
person.
A big fucking lie. Okay, look.
Okay, if you want to sit here and call me a lie, whatever, I don't fucking care. I'm telling you my views, and I've expressed this view on my live. Hold up, stop talking. I've expressed this view on my live so many times.
Let's just say you're right. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not about value. It's about treating a particular species in a certain way, which I'm not doing. You are. You literally are. Your entire argument is, oh, this is not a human species. Let me go ahead and slaughter it. That's your position.
Wait, say that one more time, sorry?
Your position is, oh, this is not a human species. Let's go ahead and destroy them and exterminate them for no reason.
No, that's not what my view is.
Yes, it is.
You're completely strawmanning me.
Okay, great. So then do you think it's wrong to slaughter a pig or slaughter a cow?
I don't know. I don't know. Mike, I told you my view is that how many times?
You can't keep just saying, I don't know. I don't know. That's not actually justification.
I'm not giving. I never said I was giving a justification. I've clarified Mike multiple times. I'm not giving a justification. I say I don't know. I just don't have a reason to be vegan. That's what I'm saying.
I gave you several reasons.
No, you didn't. You what actually we reduced down to was that we just have a difference in intuition. That's actually what it was.
Okay. Do you think
some of your views are a bit more incoherent? Like if you say that you don't value humans more than non-humans, you're going to get absurd reductios. Like, can I give you one real quick? For example, right? There's a human that has the exact same characteristics, right? As it relates to rationality, as it relates to consciousness, everything as a squirrel. Okay. Would you be indifferent to either the squirrel or the human dying?
No, of course I would save the human before the squirrel, but that's irrelevant.
Wait, but they have the same characteristics. So you do place more importance and value on humans rather than non-humans given the same characteristics. Therefore, you're a speciesist, Mike. Actually, I have a reason to justify that. You don't.
No, I do. No, the problem is that there's more net utility on the human.
No. Again, they have the same characteristics. So there's no more net utility.
Yes, there is.
No, there's not. No, there's not. How is there more net utility?
Human beings have inherently more net utility than a fucking squirrel.
Okay, right? That's literally what speciesism is, Mike. You just conceded to speciesism. No, it is not. No, that is by definition speciesism,
okay,
Mike.
Great. What's the definition of speciesism? And give it to me where it shows that it has to do with utility.
Speciesism is in applied ethics and the philosophy of animal rights is the practice of treating members of one species as more morally important than members of other species.
Yeah, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not saying it's
more. Literally what you literally just said humans are more inherently valuable than non-humans.
No, I think that animals should have moral rights just like humans have. It's the same rights, right?
No, I'm not talking about in terms of rights. We're talking about in terms of value. You just said that humans are inherently more valuable. Don't be disingenuous, Mike. This is to a next level, okay? You just said this.
No, you're not going to do this.
I'm not doing anything. You're the one gaslighting.
Stop and listen to me.
Mike, stop being a dumbass and listen.
Stop and listen to me. It's not about value. It's about rights, right? In my view, I think all animals deserve equal rights. Okay? Value is separate from speciesism. Okay? Even though I value an animal more than you or an animal more than a human more than an animal, or me more than you, that doesn't mean I'm speciesist or racist or Parkerist, right? So again, it has to do with rights. Now, you think that we get to slaughter an animal because they don't have rights. That's the problem. That's
Mike, I've actually disagreed with that multiple times. I literally say, I don't know. Mike, how many times more do I have to say that? And by the way, I apologize. I apologize for what I just said. I really don't mean to do that, because like, but you just gaslit me. That's the reason why I did that, and I feel bad, and I don't want to do that. I apologize for that, by the way. But again, based upon the definition that, again, you place more moral importance and value upon one comparative to the other, that literally by definition is speciesism. If you're using a different definition of speciesism, then you're saying, given two different definitions. You're just saying the one based on rights, you're not a speciesist. If you're saying the ones on value, you're a speciesist. The way that I use the term is based upon value.
Stop. I pressed you on this in this entire debate, and you have no answer. Your literal argument is, I don't know. I think that's a problem. I think that you're not only being...
Mike, that's not an argument.
It is, because you don't have a counter.
Mike, what's an argument?
Justification.
No, Mike, what is an argument?
To not be vegan.
What is an argument, Mike?
You don't have a reason to not be vegan. You don't have an argument.
No, what is an argument?
Logical syllogism.
Okay, so it's going to be something in which there are premises and a conclusion.
Yeah.
Me saying I don't know isn't premises and a conclusion, Mike.
Yeah, the problem is that the fact that you have no reason or no justification means you have no argument, right? You have no reasoning behind it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've clarified. I don't have an argument because I'm saying I don't know. But you just agreed it's not an argument, Mike.
The argument is that you have no reasoning or counter or justification for harming animals. That's the argument here.
I don't have a like, what do you mean? Like, as it relates to this, again, I don't consider it right or wrong. I don't know.
I'm pressing you. I'm literally pressing you this entire time on veganism. You have no answer, right? I told you about the...
I've given you answers to plenty of things. I literally, the only thing that I told you I don't know is I don't know as it relates to the context of killing animals.
Parker. I talked to you about the ethical reasons, the economic reasons.
Is it wrong to kill an ant?
Societal reasons. Yes, it's wrong to kill an animal if you don't have to.
No, I said an ant.
Yes, it's wrong to kill any animal if you don't have to. They all have rights.
Okay, so if there's a spider in my room, is it wrong for me to kill a spider?
Why do you keep pivoting on this?
I'm not trying to pivot. I'm just trying to ask you genuine questions.
I'm not going to do this shit. I'm going to press you on this because you're not taking it seriously, right? Like, I gave you the ethical reasons. I gave you the economic reasons, the societal reasons, the antibiotic resistance reasons, the health reasons. All these reasons I'm putting as a case towards going vegan, and you're just going, I don't see a reason. That's shitty. Right?
Wait, no, I see. I don't see a morally relevant reason. Again, when we're talking about the context of like my health could be better, people, Mike, people can tell me there are different diets that are more healthy that are non-vegan than the one I currently use. That doesn't mean I'm going to say that's morally justified to then hold to that or something, right? That's just going to be a healthier view for myself or something like that.
It's not
right?
Health. It's not the only reason. Like, look, I
was giving a response to that. If you don't let me respond to all of these things individually, I don't know how I'm going to respond to them. Do you want me to like give some reason that encompasses every single one of them? I don't know what you're trying to get me to respond with here.
Look, I'm trying to press you on where your ethics is.
And I'm answering, and you're getting mad when I'm answering.
No, it's just that it seems like you don't really have an actual answer. You're just saying, I don't know to run away, right?
I said I don't know to like 2 questions, dude.
So why can't I press you on this further? Why are you going to run away? Are you going to run away and say, I don't know next time?
Again, I don't say I don't know with everything. I'm just saying I don't know as it relates to the killing of pigs and stuff like that. Okay? I don't know how many times I have to tell you that I'm literally just saying I don't know as it relates to that. That's not running. I've been very clear with my answer.
So why don't you know? What do you think justifies slaughtering those pigs?
I said I don't know. I mean, Mike, how many more times? That's the only question I've said I don't know on.
This is why I can't debate this.
Mike, name one other question I said I don't know on. Appreciate the paper crane.
You don't know the trait that distinguishes humans from non-humans.
I told you.
You don't know what justifies.
I told you that already. You're fucking disingenuous as fuck, Mike. The trait that's different is literally that humans, right, are a part of a species in which meets a particular threshold of rationality. I have said that to you 20 plus times on this live. Yeah, you're literally just saying things to disagree for fun.
And we went through this line of reasoning. Thank you. We already went through this line of reasoning, and
I've gone through it 20 plus times with you, dude.
Yeah, like we already went through this line of reasoning, and I showed you that it's not rationality. It's really species. The crux of the issue is the species. You think that we are, as a species, more superior.
No, the species is granted that because it meets a threshold of rationality. I don't know how many more times I have to say that to you, Mike. You're a terrible reasoner.
Yeah, can I please like finish? Okay. So we already went through the line of reasoning, and you stated that it's aesthetic value that justifies harming the animals, right?
No, I literally told you I don't know, right? I've told you on harming animals. I literally have told you I don't know. That's the question. One question. So, I've told you I don't know on. So then, I don't know how many more times I have to say the same thing.
Look, if you're going to say I don't know to everything, then you don't have any argument.
I didn't say it to everything. I said it to one thing.
You don't have a counter. You don't have an argument at all.
Mike, I literally said I don't know as it relates to this one question, and you're like trying to say that I'm saying I don't know to everything.
This is literally the biggest question in the room. Right
name one other question. Name one other question.
Question in the room. Like, this is the reason why you're
okay. Someone as a theist could say you don't know what came prior to the context of the Big Bang, right? This is the biggest question to the theist conversation.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Oh, I could say the same thing.
No, it is not.
Why not?
Because the difference is when it comes to the universe, right? There could be a universe with God where there's a beginning or not. But in this situation, you must have a reasoning for doing your particular action, which would make you vegan or not vegan, right? There's a difference in the question.
You can be agnostic on it, though. You could be a naturalist or a non-naturalist. You could be agnostic. Right? You could be a non-naturalist or a naturalist, and you could also be agnostic.
You could be agnostic, but then that would mean you definitely don't have a justification for harming others.
Wait, I don't have it. Yeah, I just told you I don't have an argument. I don't have a justification for harming animals.
So, okay,
right?
Great. So you say it again for us. You don't have a justification.
I don't have an argument for harming animals.
Okay, do you have a justification?
I am saying I'm agnostic, and I don't have reason to be vegan.
Let me hear you say you have no justification.
I have no argument for being vegan.
What's your justification?
I mean, not vegan. Sorry, I don't have any. Sorry, let me finish. I don't have any argument for being non-vegan, right? I am simply asking for a reason why I should be vegan. Similarly to when I walk down the street, right? I'm not providing a justification for walking down the street, right? I'm going to do these actions until I have reason to consider it wrong. Appreciate the little crown. Thank you so much.
So do you think this is a good way to do ethics? Oh, let me go ahead and grape and murder. I have no reason to think it's bad. Is that good?
Well, I can provide you reason to say it's bad.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that your justification is shitty, right? Your entire justification.
Wait, I didn't have one. I just told you.
Okay, great. So then you have.
Yeah, because I'm agnostic.
So then
that's like saying you don't have a justification for your position when you're an agnostic. Like what? That doesn't make any sense.
So do you concede you have no justification for harming animals?
Because I'm agnostic.
Can you please concede to that statement?
I'm agnostic. I don't have a justification for a position I don't have.
Okay. Do you agree that you have no justification for harming animals?
For a position I don't have. Yes, I don't have a justification for a position I don't have.
So do you agree that you don't have a justification for harming animals?
I don't have a justification for a position I do not have.
Oh my God, bro. Be honest this time.
I told you I'm agnostic. I've said it so many times, Mike.
Do you have a justification for harming animals? Yes or no?
No. Appreciate the handout.
Thank you. You have no justification.
Mike, I'm agnostic. Of course, that's my position. So I like how he's gonna try and clip this and run with it. Like,
there you go.
Come on, bro.
There you go. So the point is, you have no justification. So now I'm showing.
Wait, I've told you multiple times, right? I literally am agnostic. I don't have a justification for a position I don't have.
Great. So you don't have a justification for harming animals. Now, what if there was somebody who walked around and raped and murdered, and they said, I have no justification, but I'm going to do it anyway? Is that okay in your view?
No, not under my view, because I have reason to consider it wrong. Okay, so you might be able to say under your view, you don't consider what I say is wrong. I mean, you consider that what I do is wrong, but I'll ask you what the reason is, and you can provide it.
Parker, you're not understanding. I'm not telling you that the actions are, I know the actions are wrong. I'm telling you, your justification is ridiculous. The reasoning behind
there's no justification because there's no view.
Can I finish this? Okay.
Mike, you're misrepresenting my position so hard, man.
Like, if you just let me speak for a second, right? Your reasoning for harming animals to me is bad, right? It's a bad reasoning. Because in the same context, you would think it's wrong for somebody to just simply go ahead and harm people with no reason, no justification. Yet you're here doing it. You're harming others with no justification. So please give the justification or go.
Go, it's my life. I see a difference between a human and a non-human. I've already granted that to you. I don't have a reason to say that I should be vegan, right? I'm going to keep engaging in the same actions unless I have reason to consider it wrong, right? Great. Again, if I then later on figure out that it was wrong, I would go back and condemn the prior actions that I did eating meat. Okay, but again, I don't have that reason right now. Therefore, why would I say that? Like, I don't know what you're trying to say here, man.
What if I were to show you that there's immense suffering to the animals? Would you go vegan?
Say that one more time.
What if I told you that there was immense amounts of suffering entailed by not being vegan?
In humans, or like, what do you mean? Like what type of suffering? Are you talking about like ant suffering, or are you talking about
Altogether,
cockroach suffering? Are you talking about
like all together, right? Like, what if there is a reason to be vegan, like such as
altogether? I care mostly about humans, right? Human suffering, right?
why? Why do you care about humans only, but not a dog or a pig?
They're a part of a species in which it meets a particular threshold of rationality.
Great. So go ahead.
Mike, we're just having the same conversation over and over again
Yeah,
at this point.
because you're not answering the question, right? What exactly?
I have answered the question a million times, Mike.
Yeah, what exactly is the trait that justifies harming the animals? What exactly is that physical characteristic?
I've told you multiple times, right? I literally don't have justification because I don't hold the position. I'm agnostic. Okay? Mike, how many more times do I have to tell you the same thing? That I don't hold a position, therefore it wouldn't be for me to provide a justification for a position I don't have.
Your ethical framework is not consistent, right?
What do you mean? What do you mean not? What do you mean by consistent? What's the contradiction?
Like you're saying it's wrong to not have a justification, and then you're saying it's okay to have a justification.
I never said it was wrong to not have a justification for things.
Okay, so then you think it's okay for me to go ahead and rape and murder?
No, because I have a reason why that's wrong in that scenario.
Great. So
and again, I already told you, Mike, that if I found out that
there's a contradiction.
That's not a contradiction, Mike.
Okay, great. So do you think,
Mike, that's not. Wait, give me the P and not P.
Every action, you just said every action should have justification. Then you said they shouldn't.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay,
right?
Great. Do you think
Can I clarify what I said?
Do you think every action should have justification?
No.
What action do not need justification?
Me walking down the street doesn't have to have justification.
No, we're talking about morality, not a.
That is moral justification. I don't have to have moral justification for walking down the street.
What actions morally require no justification?
Walking. That's
not a moral thing, right? That's just
it is. Yeah, it is. It's an action. I'm applying morals to. I'm saying it doesn't require justification.
It's amoral. That's amoral, right?
Wait, that's kind of quite literally demonstrating my point. You don't need a justification for a morally neutral position.
Look,
Mike, you just ran right into my point.
Look, no, what you're saying is there are some things that don't require justification, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like I don't require justification for walking.
Okay, great. So what other things do not require justification? Like this is the line of reasoning we're going into, right? Where I'm trying to
walking, picking up a rock from my backyard,
slaughtering a dog.
Again, I don't know as it relates to these things, right? If it is the case that you own if you own a pet, right, there would be no reason for that. If it's for the context of consumption globally, I wouldn't have any reason.
Whoa, Parker, slaughtering a dog, does that require a justification?
Again, I don't have reason for why I consider it wrong in the context of scenarios outside of the context of, say, it's your pet, or say it's outside the context of consumption, right? If it's outside the context of consumption, it's unnecessary. Listen, it's unnecessary for human convenience. Therefore, it would be wrong.
This is why I can't debate you.
Mike, you're cutting me off and not letting me finish. You're not letting me finish, Mike. Mike, let me finish. Right? Again, I'm saying, right, outside of the context of the use for convenience, right, as it relates to the context of consumption, human consumption, right, I am saying it's wrong. I've clarified that across the board. If you're doing it for literally no reason, right, there's not consumption relevant, well, then yes, I would consider it wrong. Outside of that context, I don't know. That's my position. I don't know. And you can give me reason to consider it wrong, Mike, but you're not understanding that my position is just I don't know. Okay, and you keep misrepresenting it.
The reason why is because there's immense amounts of suffering when you entailed by eating dogs.
Okay, so you're saying there's suffering in the context of dogs, right? Again, when we talk about these types of things, we would then have to go, is your standard based upon necessary, or is it based upon what you consider to be excessive? So if we go back to the standard of what you consider to be excessive, well, then that's just an intuitive difference. You have no moral high ground. You have no broader reason.
I'm not talking about my ethics. I'm talking about yours, right?
Yeah, but we're comparing the two because you're saying that you have a reason for why I should be vegan. And if you have a reason for why I should be vegan, well, then it shouldn't just be an intuitive distinction. It should be a reason.
That's why I'm asking you. Do you think it's okay to eat a dog?
Again, I don't know.
You think
you can't just like go kill someone's pet or anything like that, but I don't know.
Okay. Do you think it's okay to eat a dog for just for the heck of it?
Like you're consuming?
Yeah.
And is it someone else's pet?
It's just a dog.
No, so it's not someone else's pet?
It's just a stray dog.
Okay. Yeah, you what's it called? I don't know as it relates to this. I would say that the same thing as it relates to the context of cows and pigs.
I don't know.
My argument is, or not my argument, my position is still, I don't know.
Come on, bro. Like, you can say, I don't know and run away.
Wait, no. When you keep asking me the same question over and over again, and you keep saying, I don't know. It's the same question. You still haven't given me a reason for, right? You keep asking, Mike, this entire debate.
An animal doesn't want to fucking die.
I understand, Mike. When you keep asking me the same question over and over and over again, there's nothing progressing in this conversation.
Okay. Do you think it's wrong? Do you think it's okay to kill a dog if they didn't want to die?
Do I think if it's for the context of human consumption? I don't know. I've already answered the same question a million times. I don't know how many more times you want me to answer the same question.
This is why we have to go back into NTT, because it shows you that you're being inconsistent.
No, because if you ran NTT, then you're going to run into an issue because you can't provide the relevant difference between the human that has the exact same characteristics as a squirrel and a squirrel. That means you would save the human and not the squirrel.
No, that's not even relevant.
You said it earlier that humans are inherently more valuable than non-humans. You already said it earlier. I'm not pivoting. Dude, Mike, stop being disingenuous. I'm not pivoting. I'm giving you a response specifically to what you said.
Parker, you have not named the trait. I'm sorry, you haven't done it.
I have named the trait a million times. The trait that's different in terms of humans versus non-humans is that humans are part of a species and meets a particular threshold of rationality. I've literally shown you the difference plenty of times. Okay, but you didn't. All you showed me, Mike, was that you think that humans are just more inherently valuable than non-humans. That's all you said, actually, Mike. So you didn't provide any justification. I did.
Veganism, right? Like what's relevant to veganism is, do you extend...
Wait, but we weren't just having a conversation about veganism there. We were talking about the values we have with non-humans versus humans because you brought up name the trait.
Yeah, that was
name the trait isn't just a vegan position.
That was your pivot, right?
That's not a pivot. You saying everything is a pivot isn't a good response to anything I'm saying.
Okay, let's get back to the debate here. What justifies harming dogs that don't have to die? If you're just saying, I don't know, that's not a justification.
I've already told you a million times, I don't have a justification for a position I don't have, Mike.
Okay, so then you would think it's morally acceptable to go up to a random stray dog and eat it?
I don't know.
You don't know. You're going to run away.
Mike, you keep asking the same question. I don't know how many more times you want me to answer the same question.
We can go back to NDT if you want, and then you can say, well...
And I'll say the same thing that we already said, because we already had that conversation.
Then I'll ask you, where is the aesthetic value difference? You're going to say, I don't know.
Again, right? As it relates to that, I already showed you specifically that you do the exact same thing. As you're qualifying a distinction descriptively speaking between a human and a non-human, I would ask you what particular gene indicates the difference. Right? You wouldn't be able to demonstrate that. You wouldn't be able to demonstrate at what point something becomes a mountain. You wouldn't demonstrate at what point something becomes a chair. None of these things would you be able to give me the exact moment that it... Mike, please let me finish. You wouldn't be able to show me at the exact moment in which there is a distinction or what the cutoff point is.
You're just running away because you're scared.
I'm not running away from any point. I've actually, Mike, I've been extraordinarily honest with you. Okay, you are being extraordinarily disingenuous when you are literally not acknowledging the fact that I've responded to these things probably 20 plus times. Okay, Mike, I don't know how many more times you want me to answer the same question over and over again.
Okay, so what exactly is the aesthetic value that justifies harming a dog, for example?
Are you asking for the cutoff point again, Mike?
Yeah, is it like
Mike? I'm gonna give you a few more times, right? Mike, you're asking the same question we've gone over earlier, right? What is the gene? What gene specifically indicates the difference between humans and non-humans that gives humans more values than non-humans?
What's the trait that justifies killing a dog but not a person?
Again, I don't think it's justified to kill dogs, right? I was saying I don't know as it relates to that. As it relates to the context of humans, right? The reason why I see differences in values with humans versus non-humans is that humans are a part of a species and meet a particular threshold of rationality. Okay, Mike, if you ask me the same question one more time, respectfully, I'm not going to continue with this conversation. I think I've literally gone over this multiple times with you, and I've given you my responses to these things. Okay?
You didn't.
At this point, you asking me these questions is inherently disingenuous because I've answered it 50 fucking plus times. Appreciate the subscription. Thank you so much. You've given no responses to my reasoning.
Imagine if I did that on an actual debate. I don't know. That'd be, you look silly.
I didn't say I don't know to everything. I literally, two questions I answered I don't know to. One was where the cutoff point is, which you would do with every scenario. And two,
where's the cutoff?
Yeah, I can ask you the same thing with humans. I can ask you the same thing with chairs. I can ask you the same thing with basically how everything is defined.
There is no cutoff to me. There is no cutoff to me.
Wait, there's no cutoff between a human and a non-human?
That justifies harming them? No.
No, I'm not talking in terms of morals. I'm talking in terms of traits.
We're talking about ethics.
Wait, I already gave you the ethical distinction. You were asking for the descriptive difference.
I'm asking you, what is the trait that justifies harming an animal morally?
And I told you a million times, it's that they meet a particular threshold of rationality.
Okay, great. So if there is a disabled person, you would harm them.
No, because they aren't a species that meets a particular threshold of rationality. Okay, actually, so Mike, your view is that someone who is disabled that has the same traits as a squirrel is just as valuable as a squirrel.
Here we go.
Unless you were to go back to the point in which you say that the distinction is just because one is more inherently valuable than the other, which you've already said on this stream.
I'm sorry, bro, but that's not a good answer.
Mike, you just saying it's not a good answer isn't a response to anything I just said.
Look. Unfortunately, you're actually trying to run away from the question.
I'm not running away from any question. I've addressed every question completely head on in front of thousands of people. I've done it literally in front of everyone.
Answer the question head on this time. What's the aesthetic value or trait specifically that justifies harming a dog?
Mike, okay, I'm going to answer this one more time. If you ask me the same question after I answer it one more time, I'm done with this debate for today. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear, Mike? I will respond, but like I've answered the same question a million times. Okay, you asked what is the trait that values humans over non-humans? It is the fact that they are of a species in which meets a particular threshold of rationality. That is the trait.
Okay, so if it's a disabled person who's not rational, you would still not harm them, right?
So if they're a human being and they are sentient and they are not rational, I would not harm them because they are human, which means that they're of a species in which meets a particular threshold of rationality, and they are sentient.
And the sentience. It's a human and sentience. Okay, great. So animals are sentient too. The dog is sentient too, okay? It's really a human trait to you that justifies it. So now I'm asking you, where's your cutoff between human and non-human that warrants your right to slaughter a dog?
Again, you just asked the same question. The morally relevant difference is the fact that humans are a part of a species in which meets the threshold of rationality. Bro. If you're asking what the descriptive difference is of how we identify what a human is versus a non-human, you're going to have to answer the same question as it relates to the context of their DNA. Appreciate the handouts. Thank you so much. We've already had this conversation multiple times.
You didn't answer my question.
What did I not answer, man?
What's the trait that separates a human from a non-human that warrants the
human DNA? Because that is of a species in which meets a threshold of rationality.
Okay, great. So where in the DNA is the specific gene that...
Wait, now you're asking, now he's asking exactly what I was just saying. The descriptive difference between what a human is versus what a non-human is. And this is qualified by both me and you as a descriptive claim, not a morally prescriptive one.
So you're saying, so you're saying there could be a particular gene that somebody has that would make them non-human such that you can harm them and slaughter them and put them in a gas chamber.
Again, not my view that you can harm them. It's, I would say, I don't know, comparative to saying I know. Again, as the difference would be they're human versus non-human.
So you're saying, again.
So say specific, my answer for cows is going to be different than my answer for humans.
Parker, you're saying that there is a specific gene in a specific being.
Yeah, there's DNA, right? There's DNA. There's a specific gene that identifies a human as a human and a non-human as a non-human. Appreciate the cap. Thank you.
Listen this time. There's a gene, you're saying, in your view, there's a specific gene that says this is a non-human, this is a human. You're saying a gene allows you to put somebody in a gas chamber. That to me is...
No, I'm not, Mike. I've just said multiple times, I don't know as it relates to that one question. If you keep harping on the fact that I don't know as it relates to those, literally the two questions based on the cutoff point, and as it relates to whether or not it's wrong to kill animals, right? Again, I don't know what to tell you. These are literally two questions I don't know the answer to, okay? That is completely legitimate. Reasonably so, we say, I don't know, in the context of conversations about God, about where the universe came from, about plenty of things, and you think it's completely reasonable to do that.
Yeah, let me ask you another question here. What if there is...
By the way, I just want to clarify to the chat. Saying that I'm agnostic on something isn't a defense of a view, okay? It's saying I don't know. It's not having a view. You can't, like, you wouldn't say that an agnostic would be defending a particular view when they're agnostic as it relates to theism. Why would you say it here?
Okay, so Parker, if there is a specific being out there who looked like a human being, and I said, well, they had a X gene, and this gene allows me to rape them, would that be a good reason or justification too?
No, because you didn't provide any reason, right? I gave you reason, Mike. Right. This particularly, again, I never said it was okay to grape anyone, by the way. I never said it was okay to grape anyone, by the way. Can you please let me finish, Mike? Right. I never said it was okay to grape anyone. I said plenty of times the reason why humans are more valuable than non-humans is because they meet a particular threshold of rationality.
Okay.
Right? I literally, Mike,
say?
if you ask, I'm okay. I'm actually putting the barrier here because I don't want to have to cut off this conversation because you're going to take it as a fucking W because you keep asking the same question over and over again. And we're literally not having any productive conversation. Okay.
I'm going to ask you.
I'm genuinely serious. There's nothing productive coming from this conversation.
Yeah.
I've tried plenty of times to make this conversation legitimate and you have literally failed to do so every single time.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you another question that's not, that same one from before.
I've established this boundary like 6 times too, by the way.
So if there is would you say
you'd walk over it like so many times, bro? It's
unbelievable. Would you say it's wrong to harm somebody because they had a specific gene in them that you thought warranted your right to harm them? Would that be okay to you? Would that be?
I never said that a particular gene warranted a right to harm them. I said it warranted a different answer to a question, right? Like I grant them different value. So would it make sense to, because of a gene, because this gene says that because there's a threshold of rationality, right? Would I say that this is more valuable? Yes. Similarly, you say that sentient life is more valuable than non-sentient life, right? Cellular life is less valuable than sentient life, right? And you qualify the distinction based upon intuition, right? So are you saying a different type of life is grounding of the value to grant, right, a greater amount of value? Yes, you'd answer yes. And that's the same question I just answered multiple times.
Would you say it's wrong to harm somebody for the reason that they had a specific gene that warranted the right to harm them? Would that be a wrong to you? Wrong, yes or no?
It depends on the reason, right? If it is the case that the gene, right, is indicative of a human versus a non-human, right, and the human specifically meets a particular threshold of rationality, we would say that. Similarly, you think the distinction between a plant and an animal is genetic, right? That is a difference in genes that allow for sentience to occur versus non-sentience, okay? You understand that every single hold on, let me finish, please.
Look, this is
every single value that you have for animals versus non-animals as it relates to the context of plants, right, is going to be predicated off of a genetic basis for particular traits to be expressed. Do you understand that, right?
So, yeah, this is a simple reductio though, like on your position, because it's like you just said to me that you would think it's okay to grape somebody if they had a specific gene.
No, I don't think it's okay to grape someone. You said kill or something like that, right? Again, right?
Okay,
I said that it's okay. Like for example, I think it's okay to kill like an ant, right? Because an ant isn't sentient and doesn't meet the particular threshold of rationality as them being a part of the human species, right? Those two characteristics. You could ask about sentience and you could ask about the human part, right? Do these characteristics then grant a greater amount of value? Yes. Like I don't know what you're saying, man.
I'll ask you one more time. Do you think it's wrong, it would be wrong to justify raping somebody because they had a particular gene?
I'm not arguing that it's okay to grape anyone. And you have to say grape, by the way. It's
oh my God. Oh my God. Can you answer the question, please? Do you think it's wrong?
No, it's not okay to grape anyone.
Do you think it's wrong to grape somebody if they had a particular
It's not okay to grape a human, no.
They had a gene that rendered them a non-human, but looked just like somebody that was human.
Are they rational? No, it's not okay to do that.
So if they were not rational, that you would think it's okay to grape them?
No, I would say I don't know. As it relates to the context of
you don't
and by the way, as it relates to kill, not grape. I've clarified multiple times. I do not hold this for grape because you can't grape a plant, right? Like I'm talking about in terms of killing, right? I've clarified plenty of times.
It would be another animal, bro. Look. I'm sorry, bro, but you just are not answering these questions honestly because you don't have a good argument.
Mike, I've answered the question so many times, Mike.
Okay, this is an honest with a yes or no. If you're going to say
honestly, Mike, I've answered the question so many times.
Okay, great. Do you think it's wrong to rape somebody that was non-human because they had a particular gene that rendered them non-human?
No, I don't think it's okay.
Okay. There you go. But do you think that justification...
That doesn't contradict any of my positions,
too? Do you think that justification would be wrong?
Do I think that justification would be wrong for wanting to, like, grape a human?
For their genetics.
Wait, sorry, restate the question.
Do you think it would be a wrong justification to rape somebody, to think that raping somebody is okay because of their specific genetics?
I don't think that it's okay to grape someone just because they have particular genetics, right? That's not my view.
Okay, great. Well, it actually is.
No, it's not. Again, I gave you a conjunction of characteristics.
Okay, great. Now, yeah, and you just contradicted yourself.
Because I didn't name the contradiction. Give me the P and not P.
You just said before it's okay to grape somebody. It's okay to harm somebody that is non-human with no rational.
No, I didn't say it was okay. Nope, completely false, Mike. Mike, that's actually the question I've answered. Great. I don't know on. So the fact that we're this far in the conversation and I've answered that question so many times and you've continued to say this over and over again is fundamentally ridiculous, Mike.
Okay, great. So do you think
it's fundamentally ridiculous? So you've said that you've gone over the same thing. How many fucking times, dude? How many times?
Do you think it would be wrong to use a justification?
Do I think it would be wrong to use a justification for what?
Slaughtering somebody or murdering them or raping them because they were non-human.
So killing, say, something that's non-human without justification, right?
Because they had a particular genetic, particular gene that rendered them non-human.
Like killing a plant?
No, not a plant.
Right now, like let's give a particular example, like a plant. Right? Do you think it's okay to kill a plant?
We're talking about sentient beings, right?
Okay. So if you want to qualify sentient beings, right? Okay, then if we talk about specifically sentient beings, right? Do I think it's okay to kill one? I'm not making an argument based upon killing. Again, I told you many times, I don't know as it relates to the killing of non-human animals. I've told you that many times.
Okay.
My position on that has been consistent this entire conversation.
So then you would think you would not think it's acceptable that to harm these animals because there's no justification there, right?
So I don't think it's acceptable. So I'm not arguing that it's acceptable or unacceptable. Again, I told you I don't know.
You don't know if it's acceptable to rape somebody because they were.
I don't know if it's acceptable or not acceptable to kill non-human animals for the consumption of meat.
Okay. So do you think it would be okay to harm somebody who was or grape somebody who was non-human at all?
Do I think it's okay to grape someone? I don't think it's okay to grape anyone.
Okay, great. So if it's wrong to grape somebody always, why is it okay in your view or acceptable or you don't know?
Mike, we've already responded to this.
When it comes to consuming them and slaughtering them, why would that be?
You're asking two different questions. Okay. And also, again, I've told you, I don't know as it relates to the context of the harming of animals in this context many times.
Okay. Do you think it's acceptable that people consume animal products?
I don't think it's acceptable or not acceptable. I don't know. Mike, it's the same question.
Do you think it's wrong to eat animals?
No, I don't have a view of whether it's wrong or right.
Again,
you keep asking the same question, Mike. Like you're not doing anything.
I don't know, run away.
Like, no, I'm serious. Anyone who actually knows what's going on in this conversation, knows you're not doing anything, Mike.
No,
you repeating the same question is like not doing anything for me.
The problem is we're debating ethics, and you're going to.
Mike, respectfully, is there anything new you want to bring up?
Yeah, I can give you many more reasons to go vegan if you don't want to hear them.
Okay, give me the argument for being vegan.
Animals suffer and don't have to.
Is that an argument?
Yeah, it's a proposition. Yeah.
That's not an argument. That's what?
Animals suffer.
That's just a claim.
Animals suffer when we don't have to.
Animals suffer and they don't have to. That's just a claim, right? I'm asking, what's the argument for veganism?
That means we ought not harm them.
Okay, so we ought not harm them because they can suffer? Is that your view?
Sentience, they don't have to be harmed, yeah.
Okay, so would you say that with every being on the planet, whether it be ants, whether it be microorganisms or anything?
Why are you asking me questions? I'm asking you the questions.
Because you can harm a microorganism.
I know, they're not sentient. That's why I said sentient.
Okay, so if it's based on harming a sentient being, well then I'll bring up particular scenarios like
questions, Parker. I'm asking you the questions. Do you think it's okay to do that? And you're asking me questions. No.
Yeah, I say so you're asking me if it's okay to do what? Sorry, refer that again.
I forgot the question. The reason to go vegan is to reduce harm and suffering to the animals. Do you agree?
You said the reason to go vegan is to reduce suffering on animals.
Yeah.
Is that an argument?
Do you agree?
Is that an argument?
It is if you agree with it, right? It is
based upon if we were to apply that same premise. Hey, hold up, Mike. If we were to apply that same premise, that would reduce you down to saying that vegan bodybuilders are wrong because they go above the necessary caloric intake. Okay.
First of all,
we already went over this conversation.
First of all, that's not actually true at all. So again, I agree that under my threshold deontology, there would be a threshold where utility is overpowering the amount.
So that's where you go to the excessive point. Oh my God.
Great. There you go.
You just went off of the necessary point and you went on to the excessive point. So you think some level of killing animals is justified in so long as that it's okay for you. That's literally, you said, I'm okay with some level of this above the necessary level.
Bro, you're just running away every question I asked you. Look,
I'm not. You just said again, agree. I think it's okay for animals to suffer above the necessary level of caloric intake, right? Just to whatever point I intuitively think is wrong. That's what you're saying.
Look, do you agree with me that it's wrong to harm animals that don't have to be harmed?
Not in all scenarios, no. Like for example, right? Eating above the necessary caloric intake is going to harm unnecessarily rodents and different mice.
I'm talking about your ethics. My ethics is perfectly fine. I'm talking about your ethics, which is trash. Do you think
whatever you think is trash? I could say your ethics are trash.
Well, the problem is that you literally are here trying to think it might be okay to grape somebody because of their different genetics.
Again, I said I don't know as it relates to the context of killing animals, right? If we're talking about, hold up, you just love engaging and not letting me finish after strawmanning me.
The second you say I don't know, it means it might be the case that it's okay to grape somebody because they don't have genetics like yours.
Again, I'm not arguing that it's okay to grape particular members who are human, right, or other things like that. I'm not arguing that grape is okay. What I'm specifically arguing is that I do not know if it is wrong to kill a cow, right, for your consumption. Okay? Do I think it's wrong for a human to grape a cow, right? Yes, it is wrong for a human to have intercourse with a cow. Absolutely, that's wrong.
Great. So why is it so easy for you to answer about the grape, but it's so... You can't answer.
I've already established it. Unnecessary for human convenience as it relates to consumption.
Okay. So you think if convenience is enough, you get to rape an animal? Like what if you got to grape?
No, not grape. Never grape. I never said grape was okay.
Oh,
right? I specifically.
So it's not convenience.
No, I'm saying. I said for consumption. Did you hear me?
You said for convenience.
For consumption. Right. Listen. Convenience for consumption. Did you hear what I said?
Okay, great. What if it was convenient to consume an animal if you grape them? Would you do it?
What? Can you give me a scenario where that can happen?
Are you kidding me? It's a hypothetical, right? What if, for example, in order to...
What? I just don't understand what you mean. Candy, I appreciate the 9-month subscription.
Wow. Thank you. Nice job not answering the hypothetical. All right, what if...
No, I just don't know what you mean. Can you just clarify what the hypothetical means?
So, like, what if there's a particular situation where it was more convenient to consume the animal if it was raped first?
No.
You would think that's wrong?
Yeah.
So there's a contradiction, right?
No, there's not a contradiction.
You just said because
there's no scenario in real life where it is the case that
for convenience of consumption, and then I raised your point, and you said no, that'd be wrong. Right? That's
no, I don't see that as contradictory as to what I'm referencing at all. How is that contradictory?
Because you just stated that it's okay to do it for convenience of consumption. Then you said it's wrong to do it for convenience of consumption. That's a contradiction.
So I said it's okay to do it for convenience as it relates to consumption. And then actually, I will concede on that. I think that view doesn't make sense as it relates to the convenience for consumption. I think you could change the view, particularly to as it relates to not a principle, right? Like a typical apply, right? So how a threshold deontologist would apply like this, they wouldn't apply it in a principled manner. They would say I appreciate the crown, thank you so much, right? We're going to apply this, right? Unless a particular scenario, we'd say reason as to why we wouldn't apply this. Like for a scenario, I would never think that graping them is okay in the scenario, even if it led to a greater amount of taste preference, like as it relates to that, like a human having intercourse with it. So I would concede on that point.
Appreciate that honesty. Thank you. Now, the problem remains that there seems to be a more fundamental contradiction in your understanding. Because do you think, look, when you say I don't know, what you're conceding to is that it might be the case that slaughtering or raping an animal, or slaughtering an animal or consuming it, it might be the case that slaughtering it is okay if a being had a particular genetic type, right? Would you
if they're non-human and they're not sentient, like if they don't meet my particular qualifications, yes, it might be the case that I consider it okay to kill a cow for consumption.
Right.
Okay.
Well, right. So what if this being looked just like a human, but it was not a human and was not rational?
Mike, I've already responded to this question, Mike. Respectfully, dude. Hey, man. Respectfully, Mike, I've responded to this question how many times?
And I'm asking you for the aesthetic value that distincts those two.
Yeah. And you're asking for the cutoff point, which again, we've already established that cutoff points, even if they can't be specifically determined, right, they are intuitively determined based upon particular typical characteristics.
Right.
So you'd have to give me a particular circumstance, and I have to tell you whether or not it applies in a particular circumstance. You've already asked me this question how many times, Mike?
So we can go across the board, right? Like, is the nose?
Mike, if you want me to, if you just want to ask the same questions over and over again, I could keep, Mike, I could keep sitting here and asking you the questions about the N-word over and over again. You think it's okay for white people to say the N-word? And I'll just keep asking you the question. You think it's okay for white people to say the N-word? Mike, you think it's okay for white people to say the N-word? Oh wait, Mike, you still think it's okay for white people to say the N-word? Mike, you think it's okay for people to use blackface, right? Like in the same way that you keep asking the same questions, right, over and over and over again, and I've already given you responses to this, I could do the exact same thing to you. But actually, I have responses. I have reason. You didn't give me any response. You just said, how is it racist for a white person to say the N-word, right, when they're by themselves? Yeah. How is that racist? How is the vegan teacher being wrong right here? How is she doing anything wrong by saying it's okay to use blackface in the scenario we're not trying to be derogatory? Appreciate the Galaxy. Thank you so much. Like,
yeah, I think you're just like trying to run away.
I'm not running away at all. Mike, I've respectfully, I've been on here for over 2 hours, 2.5 hours at this point, arguing the same conversation with you, where repeatedly we've gone over the same questions.
So do you think?
Thank you.
Can you answer the question this time? Like, do you think,
Mike? I've already answered the question.
What's the aesthetic value that distincts a human from non-human that justifies slaughtering them?
I think what Mike, what you're trying to do here, because I've answered this question a million times. What you're trying to do is you're trying to ask me the same question over and over again until I get to a point where I don't want to have this conversation with you anymore, and I kick you off the live because you keep doing this. Appreciate the champion. Thank you so much. And then you're just going to claim that I'm running away. I think that's what you're trying to reduce it down to at this point, Mike. And I think this is a disingenuous method of engaging in debate, because it has nothing to do with whether or not I was wrong in this scenario or whether or not you provided an argument against me, but whether or not you were able to go against my ability to, have patience for this conversation when answering the same question over and over again. Thank you for the epic GG. Thank you so much. Right? I'm willing to have conversations about veganism. Right, Mike? I'm not willing to have them anymore with you. Okay? I'm down. I'm going to talk to friends about veganism. Right? I will talk about it on live, not with you. But Mike, you have asked the same question over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? And you're just trying to get me to a point where I am not patient enough to deal with it. Okay, that's disingenuous.
You're not answering the questions, though, right?
I promise you, I'm answering the questions.
Okay, great. So answer it this time, right? What exactly is the aesthetic value that would distinguish an animal from a non-human from a human?
So when you just ask the same question again, you're just waiting for me to be able to kick you off. So I already told you. Again, we can't. I don't know as it relates to these are the two questions I said I don't know to. Again, we don't know because we can't define particular conditions. Similarly to we can't identify the descriptive difference between like the particular gene that identifies a human as a human and a non-human as a non-human. Right? Similarly, I'm not going to know the particular physical characteristics in which would be able to classify my brain. I appreciate the head mustache. Thank you so much. What particular things, in the necessary and sufficient sense are going to identify this. We apply these in typicals. Okay? You would do that. It's the same thing with threshold deontology.
Right.
Mike, I've explained this to you so many times. I'm done. I'm done explaining this to you. If you want to have conversations with other people on this live, I will host it, but I cannot go through this conversation with you anymore. You've exhausted my level of patience.
So you're saying it could be the nose, it could be the ears, it could be the mouth that justifies putting them in gas chambers. It could be those things.
Does anyone know the same question you asked? And again, I told you, I don't see it to be justified. I told you, I don't know as it relates to that. So not only have you continually strawman my view, but you've also asked me the same question so many times. Insofar as that I become impatient enough to literally not want to further engage with this conversation.
Yeah. So when you say, I don't know, it means that maybe it's the case that the nose or the ears or some aesthetic trait would justify just putting someone in
No, I don't think there's a necessary, here, Mike, I'll give it to you this way. I don't think there's a necessary and sufficient condition. Appreciate the crown. Thank you so much. I think it's defined in typicals. The same way that we define chairs, the same way you define mountains, the same way you define your morality with threshold deontology, the same way that you define the difference between a human and non-human, etc. I've given you this reasoning 10, 15, 20, 30 times for the past 3 hours, right, on this date.
But do you concede that it may be the case, under your view, that, for example, an ear...
I don't think that there are necessary and sufficient conditions.
No, but this is what it would reduce down to.
Mike, it doesn't reduce down to that because I don't hold necessary and sufficient conditions.
Okay, great. So do you agree that when you say, I don't know what the aesthetic trait would be, you're conceding that it may be the case that it might be the nose or the eyes or the hair that would just
no, it's not any of those redundant characteristics you brought up. I just told you there's not necessary and sufficient conditions. We're not going to be able to identify the specific condition in which would identify the difference. And the reason why that's true is because we do this in plenty of scenarios with threshold deontology. We do this with the difference between human and non-human. Appreciate the handout. Thank you so much. We do this with everything. Mike, I actually will sit here for the next literally 3 hours I'm on live, and I will answer the same question over and over again. Right? Do you want to keep doing this?
Look, Parker.
Let's test your stamina.
No, Parker. I completely understand where you're coming from. I agree.
No, you don't, because it's actually so annoying that I have to answer the same question over and over again. It's frustrating. It really is.
Just let me speak here. Look, I understand that we'll never always have the cutoff points to everything, but that's not.
You just conceded.
The issue is not you don't have the cutoff.
Mike, you just conceded.
The issue is that having a cutoff at a particular trait, like an eye or a nose or an ear, that to me and to you probably would not justify slaughtering somebody or raping them. Do you agree that it may be the case that an eye or an ear or nose might be the thing that causes you to rape someone that's non-human? Or
no, because it's not, because we don't define these in necessary and sufficient conditions.
Somebody that's non-human.
No, Mike, I've already answered this. No.
Well, then you're saying
there's not necessary and sufficient conditions, Mike. You're misunderstanding how necessary and sufficient conditions work, which means you're misunderstanding your own ethical stance, by the way.
Look,
appreciate the wind force. Thank you so much.
If the conditions are met, right? All the other conditions are met. It's just that one remaining factor is that their genetics are different, right? In your view, it may be
dude, I've already asked you the same question.
In your view, it may be the case that a particular gene would render you the ability to slaughter them.
If you're just going to ask me the same question, I don't know how you want me to respond to this.
It's not a question. I didn't ask you a question. I told you something as a statement.
What was the question? You asked a question.
There was no question. It was a statement. The fact that you said, I don't know, means that somewhere in your ethical framework, there is room for the notion that there might be a particular aesthetic trait, like a nose or ear or eye, that would render you the ability to slaughter somebody.
I don't accept that inference because these are based on necessary and sufficient conditions. There isn't a relative cutoff point that we can identify. Same thing as I could ask you, right, based on threshold deontology or the context of humans as it relates to versus non-humans, the descriptive difference, you would be able to not identify a specific condition which would identify the necessary and sufficient conditions otherwise. Okay.
It's not what I told you, right? What I told you is that it necessarily follows.
And Mike, I'll let you respond to this. I'll let you finish this. And then I'm just letting you know, I'm done with this conversation. I will let you debate someone on my live, but I'm done having this convo, right? Because I'm answering the same questions over and over again. You can restate this last position though. Thank you for the wind force.
Okay. Yeah. The statement is like the moment you say that I don't know what justification would, or I don't know what trait aesthetically would justify, would separate us from non-humans. The fact that you're saying I don't know means that there's room for the possibility that there may be a particular aesthetic trait like ears or eyes or nose that might allow you to justify your slaughtering of a being that's non-human.
Yeah, I'm going to let Danny go on for now because I think I've already responded to this multiple times that there's not necessarily sufficient conditions, right? It's not going to be identified in terms of how you establish a cutoff, similar with chairs, similar with non-human versus human in those descriptive sense.
That's irrelevant.
Same thing with threshold deontology. I've already responded to this. I've already given you a response to this.
That's irrelevant.
I'll let you talk to Danny though right now, right? I'm done. I'm not going to even butt in. I'm completely done.
Oh, so it's 2v1 now?
No, I told you I'm completely done. I'm not one. It's a 1v1 versus you and Danny.
Well, first of all, I'm sympathetic with both. My personal view is, well, the ideal world is I get meat without killing animals, but we don't know how to do that, right? Maybe one day we'll get there. I don't really value killing certain animals. Look, I'm sorry, I don't care about crickets. I don't care about roaches, and I don't think you can get me to care about those things. But I care about, Bambis. I care about cows and pigs to a point where I would say that I'm actually inconsistent in eating meat.
Thank you.
I think that we would be in a better world if we stopped eating those kinds of animals. But I just can't help myself. That's my position.
Thank you, Danny, for being honest, at least.
Well, okay, but now I said I sympathize with both views. Okay, so on the other hand, I think that it's very difficult to provide a philosophical argument for why someone should be a vegan. I think what you have to do, the only way to philosophically convince someone of veganism is you have to start with their values, right? And you have to, do they value Bambis, right? If they don't, they rather hunt them. I mean, there's not much talking at that point. I mean, you could show them,
So it's not really about value necessarily. It's about, having sufficient reasons or sufficient enough reasons to morally consider an animal, to extend moral consideration or to extend rights to other animals. It's not about how much I value them. Like I value Bambi more than an ant, of course, right? It's not about value. It's about, hey, should animals have rights in the first place? And I think they should. All animals should have rights.
Yeah, I think it's really important that I think values are integral in the conversation. I think reasons might motivate our values.
Well,
right?
It's not about the degree of value necessarily. It's about, having sufficient value to, it's not about degrees in terms of in regards to other animals. It's about, having sufficient enough reasoning or value to not harm somebody.
Okay. I don't know if we're disagreeing, but the point is that, I'm not a fan of the name the trait argument. I really am not. Now, I think I'm not a fan of it if it's supposed to be an argument. Now, consistency tests are fair, right? Like, I get that, right? Like, we do consistency tests on each other all the time. Those are fair ways of discussing these sorts of political issues. But if you can't catch them on an inconsistency, I don't really know what there is to accomplish.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, as a moral anti-realist, there's no independent argument that's going to make someone become a vegan logically. There's always going to be those other ethical reasons, economic reasons. But when it comes to pointing out inconsistencies, that's why vegans debate. That's why I'm here debating. I'm trying to point out inconsistencies. That's all we can do when it comes to ethics. I don't think ethics is something that's, I think ethics are subjective. I'm a subjectivist. But that's irrelevant to the topic, right? What's relevant here is, hey, are you being consistent? And at least Denny's saying, no, he's not being consistent. Parker seems to be having a hard time.
Well, I don't know Parker's values well enough to say that he's inconsistent. He seems like he doesn't know, and he's actually open, right? And it might be at the end of the day, he says, yeah, I'm inconsistent, but I can't help myself. It's kind of like, I look at meat like a drug almost, I probably shouldn't do it, but I do it, maybe he'll feel that way in the future. I don't know. He's thinking about it. He's an agnostic, right? And I don't think that, we should let people think about these positions, right? We live in a society where people eat meat every day. So it's it takes a lot to get to that point.
Right,
but
right.
The point is you try to do the name the trait thing. And I'd ask you, do you kill cockroaches when they're in your house?
Yeah, so I'm as a threshold deontic, my position, my normative theory is threshold deontology. What that means is essentially, I think that animals should have rights inherently, but there are specific points, there are certain thresholds at which the consequences are severe enough to, kind of break the rules and, infringe on others' rights. So if, for example, if somebody's trying to come into my property, even a person with trying to take away my house or steal my stuff, I'm going to do what I can to get rid of them. The same with a cockroach, right? If a cockroach is coming into my house, I'm going to get rid of them as if I have to.
Yeah, but one you would kill, the other one you'd call the police, maybe, right?
I would kill the person who's invading my house for sure.
Wait, okay, but maybe after. What if they're trespass? You kill a trespasser.
If they're trespassing and my life is threatened and my house is threatened, yes, I'll do what I can to get rid of that being.
But they're not. Let's say it's a kid that get off the lawn kind of situation. Okay, you wouldn't. If it were a cockroach, you'd just kill it right then and there. No question. No warnings. No nothing. Right. But for humans, you'd consider a little bit more as to what you're going to do. And so I could do the same thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So then we could do the name the trait thing. What about the cockroach makes it such that it's not, you don't treat it the same way as a human?
Well, because a cockroach doesn't have the same rationality level, doesn't have the same sentience level. But that's not relevant to, it's not relevant to veganism, because veganism does not say that we're supposed to treat humans the same as animals. What we're saying is that they should have rights as humans do, not the same rights necessarily, or not the same privileges, not the same values. It's about, do they have sufficient rights, sufficient value to not want to harm them if you don't have to? And
I think it's very different though. Presumably you think invasive species, do they have the right to life?
every animal has a right to life. The problem is if you start if you start doing something wrong with other beings, you start trying to take away their property, or if you try to threaten their life, that's where we start going into extermination.
You see, but what it seems like is I'm asking similar questions you asked Parker, and you're giving very similar answers. Like, because for instance, in the state that I live, we have something called apple snails, right? They're extremely invasive. I live in the South. There's a lot of crawfish farms here. They're they impede the crawfish business, which I guess is probably good for you. But the point is that it's an invasive species.
Yeah, this is all irrelevant, right? Because the point is,
why don't they have the right to life?
Look, what you're attacking here is my normative ethics. You're not really attacking veganism here, right, Danny? All you're doing is saying, well, under your normative theory, there's something wrong, which I may agree. I don't think there is. I can answer your questions, but you're not really attacking veganism. You're attacking my normative ethics. And again, veganism does not necessarily entail that we treat every other being the same. That's not what it means.
Okay, so were you attacking, when you were asking Parker, what's the difference between, why is it that it's permissible to kill, a pig and not a human? Were you just testing his normative ethics?
I'm testing his meta ethics, right?
No, y'all have the same meta ethics. Y'all are both anti-realist.
I'm testing his. I'm testing his ethical positions.
That's normative ethics.
They're consistent. It doesn't necessarily entail his normative theory.
What a normative theory is.
I'm testing his ethical propositions that he's making and seeing if they're consistent.
Yeah, to me, this is normative ethics, because what I take normative ethics to be is what's the secret ingredient that makes something right or wrong. That's basically normative ethics. Like what Parker what's the secret ingredient to making a pig, eatable and a human not eatable?
No, this is wrong. I'm not like, he can be utilitarian. He could be a deontologist, a virtue ethics, right? Ethicist. That's irrelevant, right? I'm attacking his specific propositions that he's making. Now, Parker could be consistent, but it would have to bite a big fucking bullet, such that he thinks it's okay to slaughter somebody if they have a specific gene. I think that's absurd. I think that's a huge reductio. But that's the point. Like, Parker could be consistent.
Okay, I'm not getting it. So this is what maybe you can help me understand. So I asked you, when we put bounties on Nutria, they're about to put a bounty on Burmese pythons in Florida because they're invasive. And I ask you, okay, what is it? Why is it that Burmese pythons and apple snails and lionfish, they don't have the right to life? What about that species makes it that they lose their right to life and not, let's say, a pig or you, right? And then you're saying, well, that's an unfair question. That's a test of normative ethics. But it seems like
No, it is a fair question. But the problem is that even if I couldn't answer it, it wouldn't attack veganism, right? Like, I could. The answer is obvious, right? Net utilities increase when we get rid of those snakes, right?
Okay, so net utility. If we enslave a percent of the population and net utility increased, would that be fine?
No, it wouldn't be fine.
So there's something other than net utility.
Deontics. It's deontics that supports that.
Look, here's the point.
This is very important to recognize, right? Like, it's my deontics, my deontic values that grounds the notion that humans have rights and not to be enslaved, just like animals do.
Okay, I think
now you're strawmanning me. I'm not a complete utilitarian.
Okay, but the point is that there's other stuff that you're considering other than utilitarian calculus that makes it such.
Yes.
Okay, but that's what we want to know. Why is it that you're presenting a utilitarian calculus when it comes to Burmese pythons and not on humans?
Because there's a threshold of utility, right? If it surpasses that threshold, then we get to, do what we have to get rid of that species. It's that simple. Well, look, but this has nothing to do with veganism. You're not really attacking veganism. You're attacking my normative theory.
I get that. In the same way, when you were criticizing why couldn't he give the cutoff for what the difference between human and non-human animals, you're not giving an argument for veganism. You're just attacking his normative ethics, right? So I think what would be fruitful is to say, hey, these are the values that I have. Do you have those values? Okay, if you do, then you're committed to veganism. I think asking these cutoff points, look, I think that our moral lives are so untidy. I'm a particularist. Threshold deontology is a type of generalism. Like for those that don't know, generalism, you hold to principles. Okay, particularist, you don't hold to principles. It's based on context. It's very untidy. I'm a particularist. I think it's very difficult to get. Oh, why is it that you ate this at this particular time and not that at this particular time? And or why did you choose to do, like, it's all very untidy. To ask like where our cutoff points are very, very difficult.
That's not the point. You're missing the entire point, right? The point is to show you the reductio in his view, right? I think that under Parker's view. Look,
what is Parker's view?
Under Parker's view, it might be the case that there is a specific gene that renders you the ability or right to grape or slaughter somebody. That's his view.
Yeah, but you have something similar. There's something specific about Burmese pythons and utility that it's okay to slaughter them.
It's okay to slaughter them because they're causing a net disutility.
Yeah, it's not that much different, right?
It's not different at all. The problem is that under his view, which it probably is inconsistent.
I didn't say that.
Look, if I ask most people on the planet, they'd probably say, no, it's wrong to grape or slaughter somebody because of their specific genetics, right? I think that would be a okay assumption to make, right? That's the point here. I'm trying to show you this. I'm trying to show you this insane reductio from his view, whereas my view has no reductio like that.
Okay, well, with that, look, part of these questions, I think the questions I'm asking you are a little bit unfair, right? Because I think that, again, the way that we calculate value, the way that we come to, okay, it's okay to unalive these species because it's invasive, but it's not okay to do it with these species. Like, getting all those values in order is a really difficult project. In many cases, people don't know the answer as to what.
I agree. It is hard, but it shouldn't be this hard.
But that's what you were doing to Parker.
But the particular question I asked him was not very hard at all, right? Hey, do you think it's wrong to grape somebody, or do you think it's wrong to slaughter somebody? That doesn't seem like a very hard question to ask somebody.
Well, to be fair, you talked for 3 or 4 hours. I don't know how long you talked, but I remember asking about a cutoff. Like, what makes a human not eatable? What makes pig eatable? What's the cutoff? What are the traits, right? I just don't really, I mean, I think it's fair to say, look, I see a difference. The difference is just that one belongs to a certain species, the other one doesn't. That's as far as I know. I don't have an opinion past that. I don't see why you didn't accept that answer.
Well, it's not that I didn't accept it. It's that I was trying to point out a reductio he was not willing to answer, right? Again, under his view, he thinks that it might be okay. It might be the case that a specific gene might allow you to slaughter somebody.
But Parker's shaking his head like he didn't say that. Well,
okay, if not, then
I clarified this with the necessary and sufficient points like multiple times, and I think he understood it when we brought up like the point about like it's hard to identify these cutoffs, but he just like keeps going back to it. I don't know what's gonna happen with that, but
well, I guess look, I'm just saying if Parker, I'm saying everyone has these problems because like I could point out like there's going to be an arbitrariness to why you apply utilitarian calculus.
Of course, but that doesn't really attack veganism, right? It's not attacking veganism.
Okay, do you have
like it was like even if I couldn't answer your questions, it would still be better to be vegan, like all else equal, right? It could be the case.
Okay, but just because Parker can't answer your questions doesn't make veganism he ought to be a vegan.
I agree, but the problem is that if you can't answer the question I raised to him, then it would lead to a ridiculous reductio that I don't think he would even hold.
Well, how could you present a reductio if he's agnostic, if he's thinking about it?
No,
you see what I mean? This is the same question I asked.
Look, because he said, I asked him, what's the aesthetic value that distincts a human from non-human? He said, I don't know. Which gives
he's running NTT. He's running NTT. Wait, no. I asked you what the trait was, right? You're then asking for a descriptive difference between a human and a non-human as it relates to their DNA, which is not a prescriptive a prescriptive judgment from my behalf.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that under your view, there might be a possibility of a specific gene that would allow him to slaughter somebody. It's not simple. Like, it's not that hard.
Well, it is. These questions are hard, right? Like, I mean, again,
if you ask, let's ask the chat. Like, is it hard, guys? Like, if there was a gene in somebody, would that allow you to slaughter them? If they were like a non-human?
Well, I'm presumably. Look, we can value. I don't think a lot of people are motivated by genes. They're motivated by like the type of animal that they are is independent from genes. I mean, like. But the genes explain the sort of traits that we value and disvalue, perhaps. But the
47 no's, 67 no's.
Okay, watch this. If you're not vegan and you think that I'm right in this conversation, type 1 in the comment section.
Well,
they're still saying no.
I mean, I don't know if there's what more to say. I just wanted to point out that if he can't provide that cutoff and you can't either, then
look at that, Mike. 252 people. Look at it.
Yeah, most people are not vegan. That doesn't do anything.
But we all agree. Okay, but we all agree that the ideal world
is a different question. Like you're just an ad hominem.
He appeals to the chat, and then when it doesn't work in his favor, then he's like, "Oh no."
It's a different question, right?
Sorry, I don't mean to cut off. Go for it, Denny.
You're asking non-vegans about, hey, is veganism good? Of course, they're going to say no.
I think this is the way we should. This is the way. If I were, I'm not a vegan. I'm far from it. But I wish I could be, but like I'm just so weak-willed. But the way I see it is that we all agree here that it'd be better, the world would be better if we could eat meat without killing anything, right? Like we all agree.
Yeah, lab meat is. I think lab meat is.
Agrees to that, right?
I think lab meat would be like the biggest.
Okay. Lab meat is optimal. Now, I don't get the people that want their meat specifically from a dead organism when they could just get the exact same thing from a lab. Those people are weird. But so all right, now if we value certain animal lives like livestock and poultry and all that, then what are the competing values here? I think the competing values are convenience and taste. That's basically it, right? And so and then you just weigh those values, and some people say, well, I think convenience and taste matter more than the lives, in which some people say, well, I think that the lives and the suffering of animals matter more than convenience and taste, but I'm too lazy or weak-willed to do anything about it. And then you have the people like you that are not weak-willed and that agree to that. That's how I see the conversation. I don't see why we need to do the name the trait thing.
Well, because the reason for name the trait is to point out inconsistencies. And I think that if you're going to be agnostic, that's fine. But the problem is, down the road, it's going to lead to ridiculous reductios that I don't think even Parker would hold to. Most people wouldn't hold to. That's what I'm trying to press him on. Like he can say, I don't know, but that, number one. But number two, there's so much more utility that I wasn't really allowed to actually talk to in the debate about, the positives of veganism that seemingly he doesn't want to talk about.
Okay, but wouldn't those reductios exist on like your view as well?
Not the same reductio, not at all, no.
Well, okay, so I understand this is not an attack on veganism. We're seeing whether you're consistent, or if you're arbitrary, right? That's like the point of the name the trait thing. Is either you're inconsistent or arbitrary and you look like a monster, right? So the idea is that you Burmese pythons or nutria, these are invasive species. We put bounties on the head. Now, first of all, do you think it's good to kill these animals? You would say yes because of utility, right?
Yeah, I would say there's a net positive utility.
Okay, and so then you take that trait that it's permissible to kill them because of net utility, and then you what they use a term, I forgot what they use, the name the trait people. You put that trait on humans, right? So let's say there's a group of humans where if you unalive, it increases utility, but we'd be against that, right? So then the question is, why is the utility?
Not at all. If there were people destroying crops, right? If there were a bunch of people destroying crops and causing the same amount of harm that pythons are, of course we'd eradicate them.
But you understand,
we put them in jail to eradicate them as hard as we can, right? If these people would not listen to me and we would just continuously just try to destroy the world, I would say that eradicate them. Absolutely.
Okay, but the thing about these, you're targeting a species. It's like literally like animal genocide, right?
Yeah, that's what.
So if there was let's say a race or a nationality that was roaming rampant, this would be a justification for genocide.
No. It depends on the context. If these people were causing the same amount of harm as a python, if they were killing people, if they were destroying predators, destroying small creatures, or destroying land or killing people,
okay,
that would be a self-defense thing.
Okay, let's take the Vikings. And I don't know very much about the Vikings, so we're gonna have to stipulate some stuff. I don't know my history, so let's just pretend. Let's say the Vikings were very, very violent. Okay, kind of like the way that we think of it. I don't know how violent they were. They looked pretty violent. They pillaged, they raped, they did all that. Do you think that they should be genocided?
If people are raping each other and not stopping at all, and there's no way to talk to them to stop, there's no way to peacefully stop that, yeah, we should definitely defend ourselves and harm them back.
Okay. Well, the point is that what I would want to say is that we should eliminate the ones.
This is not a very good reductive.
We don't want to eliminate Viking people because they're Vikings, right? We don't limit. It doesn't
matter what species they are. The point is, if they're harming us, let's harm them back if we have to.
Okay, so then there are cases where you would say that genocide. Do you think that let's pretend I don't know my history, so chat, forgive me. Let's pretend that the Zionists are correct, okay, for a split second, okay? And let's say that Palestinian people are a threat to the Israeli state.
Look, guys, they're saying to bring up Amdir.
Would Israel be justified in genociding the Palestinians?
If you'd like him to go in for you, you can.
Look, I think that people who have rationality have the ability to talk things over, right? I'm for peace treaties.
You didn't say that about the Vikings.
I'm for constitutions. I'm for peace treaties. Of course we should do those things. The context is completely different. But a python doesn't speak English. It can't write a constitution. It doesn't know what peace treaties are. So of course we're going to treat them differently because they don't have the same rationality. Not just because they're a different species, but because they have different rationality. That's the point. And people in the comments are saying to bring up Amdir.
Amdir's a vegan, and he'd probably have a good things to contribute. I don't know how much he heard of what I said, but the point of what I'm doing,
like. I mean, if you want to make this if you want to keep it a 1v1,
well, it's your.
We can do it in for Mike, or we can do a 2v2. I don't really care. I'm just kind of tired after today, but I'm down to do that.
I'm fine with it, but the point, Mike, is I don't think some of the questions I'm asking you can. It's very easy to make someone look like a monster, right? Because they don't have well thought out cutoffs, right?
Right. I agree, but the problem is the question's completely different, right? Like I think it's trivial to say that I wouldn't harm somebody because of their specific genotype, right? I think that's a simple thing to say. It's not comparative, really, to self-defense, situations.
Well, I want to get Amdir's thoughts on whatever he heard. I don't know how much he heard.
Well, I haven't been around for the whole conversation. Right, let me turn my camera on. I kind of only got in when Danny got up here. But there we go.
Okay. Well, I'm no fan of the name the trait argument. I was just trying to parody kind of what I was just trying to kind of parody the argument, I suppose. Because there are certain animals that vegans are fine with unaliving and not others, and so I was doing the whole name the trait thing to show that these are not easy questions, and a lot of people don't have cutoffs. I don't think they even need to have an articulated cutoff. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I do think there's a question: do you need a cutoff and do you need an articulated cutoff? Those are two different questions. I think it's true that you need a cutoff. It's not true you need an articulated cutoff. You can have a cutoff and not articulate it, maybe not even be aware of what the cutoff is. That's fine. So, but the point of name the trait is to self-reflect on what the cutoff is. There's kind of two things you said I want to address. One is you mentioned that you're a particularist. I also consider myself a particularist. I don't think name the trait commits you to moral principles. I'm not sure if we disagree about that.
No, I don't think it does, but I think Mike is not a particularist. So
okay. Second of all, depending on what you mean by reductio, I think it's clear that you can be agnostic on something and have reductios. Like if I asked, do you think that it would be right or wrong to unalive a human that just had cow hair? And you said, I'm agnostic on that. I think that would be a reductio.
Yeah, that's fine. I think part of I don't know how much you watch with Mike, but a lot of when these questions were asked of Parker, he just said he didn't know. He didn't have a cutoff, and then he had to think about it. So I think for those people that are thinking about it, they should think about they can think about a cutoff. But I mean, I think we should leave them to thinking about it.
I think that if you kind of ask the name the trait question and someone's agnostic to it, you can the conversation doesn't have to end there. You can start kind of just going through the trait equalization process, and at first more broad. If there's a human that has cow rationality, there's a human that has cow hooves, there's a human that is different, their species is shifted from a different human, and see whether they're agnostic on each of these different cases. Then when you find out what they are and aren't agnostic on, you can start to get more granular, and you can kind of together go through this kind of self-reflection and find out.
So, how would you answer the reverse name the trait thing? So I'm certain that you're comfortable with killing cockroaches and other pest-like things, right? What if
I'm not convinced cockroaches are sentient, so that's going to be the trait that I would name.
Okay, so so if it were sentient, you wouldn't kill it.
Yeah.
Okay. If an ant was sentient, you wouldn't kill it.
If they were like so that there might be some non-trivial amount of sentience I care about. I might say something like, if an ant is non-trivially sentient, then think you should avoid killing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because they're different. I guess spectrum. There's a spectrum of sentience. I would say. Really, for me, it's by sentience. What does that mean exactly? Is that just that it can have conscious states, mental states?
Some sort of first-person experience or subjective experience, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because what matters to me is more about like the sort of intentional states it has. I'm sure that like, would you say you're less sentient if you can't see color, or no?
Are you less sentient I don't think you have less of a first-person experience if you can't see color.
Okay, I mean, so really for you it's black or white, right? Whether either something is sentient or not. It's not a spectrum.
Well, there might be some spectrum, and maybe somebody is like less sentient if they can't see color, but it would be like a really minuscule amount. I think it would be something that's like really unimportant.
Because if scientists told me that ants are sentient, I'm not so sure if I would care. But
what if they told you that they were as sentient as a human? What if scientists told you?
Yeah, then I would care. I would care. It would be like I would care a lot, right?
Yeah, like they told you, actually, ants, they have the experiences that you have. They actually they hold funerals for their grandmas when they die. All this.
But that's the point. Is that let's say, I mean, I'm not convinced. I'd have to think about it. But let's say sentience is on a spectrum. Oh, whoops. Let's say sentience is on a spectrum. I mean, are you going to know when the cutoff is? I mean, so some kind of Sorites paradox, that.
I don't think that you need to know where the cutoff is to think that it's like weird to say that if you have some human that's just the intelligence level of a pig or something, that you would find that wrong. You don't need to know where the cutoff is to think something like that.
Okay, so maybe I misunderstood you earlier about, needing to know a cutoff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't say that you need to know a cutoff.
Oh, okay. What? I thought maybe I misheard.
I said there needs to be a cutoff. If it's not true that there's a trait true of the animal that, if true of the human, would justify unaliving it for cheeseburgers, if there is no such trait, then and you do think that it's morally permissible to slaughter it's morally impermissible to unalive the human for cheeseburgers, then you would have a contradiction on your hand. But I didn't say you need to know the trait or you need to know the cutoff.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I interpreted you, because Parker was saying, I don't know the cutoff, right? I don't have one, right? Like, I mean, that's what by have one, he means like there's not that, like.
No, there's no articulated one. That's what I was trying to say.
Well, but there's one thing to know it and there's one thing to articulate it. Those are two distinct things. So it seems like there's three things here. There's there being a cutoff, something that explains why you suddenly there's a difference in value, and then there's knowing about it and there's articulating it.
I'm saying there needs to be a cutoff. You don't need to know it or articulate it.
You don't need to know it. Okay, that's what I want, right? To focus is that you don't need to know the cutoff. I think.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think, like, even if you don't know the cutoff, it doesn't mean that the sort of name the trait game that just ends and we like pack it up and go home or something. Well, like, there's still somewhere the conversation can go.
Well, after 3 hours, maybe you want, but like, I don't know how long they've been talking, but yeah, no, I agree. I mean, more or less, I agree that, you could always talk more after, someone says, I don't know what the cutoff is exactly, but the point is that you shouldn't demon. Oh, you don't know the cutoff? You don't know the cutoff? Like, I mean, that's
actually not what I was doing, right? Look, having no cutoff, what I'm saying is, I agree that Parker can say he has a cutoff and we can end there on that topic. But the problem is, I was trying to show him the reductio in his view. He was not willing to actually answer the question exactly where it was, right? I was going to go into, is it this particular trait or not? And it seems like he didn't want to answer. He just said, I don't know. And, and that
this has been recorded, Mike. Like, I can't believe you can sit here and say that after it's been recorded.
Oh, okay, great. So, what's the trait that, makes a non-human a human that would justify harming a non-human?
Are you asking for the cutoff?
Yeah.
He just did it. You literally just asked for what the cutoff is.
Yeah, so like,
remember we said that there's not an articulated cutoff.
Like, what's the physical trait? Like,
that doesn't mean somebody can't ask for it. Then you would just say, well,
I would just say we don't have an articulated physical trait. Like,
and then we say, well, okay, let's say that we have a human and they just have pig hooves and they just have pig hair. Are you agnostic on this case, whether it would be okay to unalive them and turn them into?
No, because they would still be human.
Well, that's fine.
Because his aesthetic points was something completely different. That didn't even relate to being human.
No, this is just like step one. The point is that we have a human on one side, we have a pig on one side. We start taking things that are true about the pig. Okay, it's true it has hooves. It's true it has some level of intelligence. It's true it has however many stomachs a pig has. We start making these things true of the human. We can just kind of ask you as we go along this process at different steps of the process, we can just ask you the question, are you agnostic about this case? Are you agnostic about this case? We might get more information about the sort of where the gray area is and what the areas are that you're more sure about. And maybe there's something weird on your view that comes out of doing that.
Danny, you're muted, by the way. Mine was like, Danny, you're muted, man.
I was muted. I was muted. I think Parker said something like, well, look, it's going to be the trait that makes the difference between whether it stays human or not. That's what Parker.
We're asking the particular trait, like we're asking a particular physical feature.
But he doesn't have an answer as to what that trait is. And I don't really think that, I mean, is that a problem in one sense, but it's not like something that like I would give anyone shit over because I don't know the answer to that question.
So you would think, Danny, that it might be okay for someone to say, yeah, because this person has hooves, we get to slaughter them for food and put them together?
No. I think the point is that what Parker said, I remember in the conversation, is that you could do the trait equalization, but there's going to be a point where the second that you transfer this particular trait, or maybe even a set, it's no longer human anymore.
Okay, great. So if there was a non-human who looked just like me, but he had hooves and was green-skinned, you would think that would be okay to slaughter that person, that being?
No, I'm sorry, maybe I'm not clear. He's saying that when you do this trait equalization thing, there's going to be a point where you transfer so many traits that it's no longer human. We're just a pig again. It's just a pig.
Yeah, we're asking for that cutoff, right? We're asking for that cutoff.
I don't even know the answer to that.
My point is that if someone is agnostic on the cutoff, then what you can do is you can go to sort of ranges. So you can just go like, well, right here, are you agnostic to it right here? How about further down the line right here? Are you agnostic about it here? How about further down the line? Are you agnostic about it here? That's the sort of exercise I'm interested in.
Yeah, but there's going to be, okay, so, but as soon as Parker recognizes the human turns into a pig, then he's going to, so whatever that cutoff is, we could do that test, right? Like, but that's going to be,
that's the part I'm interested in.
Okay. So, but
which is exactly what I told Mike he should have done, and he didn't do it repeatedly.
But then it just becomes a question. Okay, when is it? What makes a pig, right?
Well, that's just. I think that's like a semantic point. I don't think that's too relevant.
That's literally what I was telling him it was, because it just comes down to a descriptive difference of when you see it to be a human versus a non-human.
I can reword it. At what point do you perceive it as a pig?
At what point? Well, I don't know what you mean by perceive it. Like, do you just mean that you look at it and you think that it's a pig? Clearly you don't mean that, because you can imagine a scenario where you have like a Freaky Friday situation with a pig and a human, and you would look at it and you would think it's a pig. Like, there's something else meant by perceive there.
But let's use the word perceive as a success term, right? Like, let's contrast perceive versus misperceive, right? So yeah, in the Freaky Friday situation, if Parker knew that it was a human trapped inside of a pig, you'd count that as a misperception, and to some extent.
Well, that's gonna depend how the person's like using the term pig. So now then there's a question like, what are the application conditions of the term pig? But I think that's just what we're asking about. So
but that's like that's like, I don't even know if there's a good answer. I mean, do you have a good answer to that?
Well, like what a pig is? I don't think I have a good answer for that, but I don't think that I would name pig as my answer to this question.
Yeah, and then that's the point. That's the entire point here, right?
Like if you do name that, then I think you don't need to tell me what are the application conditions. Well, like if you don't know what the application conditions are of the term you're using, then I think in certain contexts, I know the application conditions. I don't think that there's like application conditions independent of the context. That's one thing. So right now I might be able to look at a pig, say that's a pig, and tell you what it means for me to be saying that successfully. But
Parker can definitely identify what traits would make it sufficiently a pig. But if the cutoff, I mean, the point is that where is the point where you have like,
we're not even saying pig, we're saying like non-human, right? Like that's a way easier thing to do. And we're giving. But
the point is, for pig to be applied successfully is just going to end up being that like some other predicates applied to this thing, right?
You have to go over that for me.
So like for the term pig to be applied successfully, that just means that there's some other predicates that applied to it. So maybe by pig, you mean, you know, pink thing with not very intelligent with the tail that swirls. And if those predicates apply to it, then pig applies to it, because pig is just, pig has application conditions. Those are just other predicates. So when we're asking like, you know, when we're going through this process, like we don't need to use the term pig. We can kind of just look for those other predicates, right?
Well, look, why don't you play the game? Just play the game with him and see what he says, right? I mean,
yeah. So the way that I would start is like I think it's a human. So it's like a human. Looks like a human, except it just has hooves and a hair. Is this a pig? Or sorry, not is this a pig, but is it permissible to unalive it?
I appreciate the hand art. Thank you so much. I never said it was even permissible to unalive like a cow or a pig or anything. I said I was agnostic on that.
What was like the name of the trait thing that you were setting up, Mike? What was the scenario?
He was just kind of asking me why I have difference in values.
No, so he said it's conjunction of rationality and being human. So I said, okay, no matter if there's a mentally disabled person who has no rationality, you would still harm them. He said, yeah. So then it's not rationality, that's just fluff. It comes down to species, right? So then
this is not what I said at all, by the way.
What is the distinction between a human species and a non-human species? And he said aesthetic value. Okay, so then I asked him, what was the aesthetic value, that trait that justified harming that non-human?
I'm asking like, what are the two, what is the scenario? Because usually name the trait as something like, what's true of the animal that, if true of the human, would justify unaliving it for cheeseburgers.
He said aesthetic value, and then I said, okay, great.
That's not what I said. No.
Parker's saying that he doesn't think that it's permissible to unalive the cow or pig for cheeseburgers. So then, are you setting up name the trait like what's true of the human, or what's true of the animal that, if true of the human, would make you agnostic on whether the human.
Yeah, and Parker said,
you're setting it up? Okay.
Parker said aesthetic value. He said that.
He wasn't saying the accent.
I'm just trying to get
relevant here. Let me clarify this, Amdir, because Mike is just like, his active listening skills are negative. Right. I was saying, for the context of humans versus non-humans, right, that humans, right, they're sentient and they're a part of a species in which meets a particular threshold of rationality.
Right.
That was the view.
Then I asked you, if there is a mentally challenged person who had the same rationality of a cow, would you
but they're sentient and they're of a species in which has a particular threshold of rationality.
Okay, great. So it's species. All animals are sentient.
I thought that we were agnostic on the trait. I'm getting a little bit confused.
No. I'm agnostic on whether or not it's like morally permissible to kill animals, right? What I'm not agnostic on is the trait that defines the difference between whether or not humans are more valuable than animals. I know that humans are more valuable than animals under my view, and this is the reason I give. Does that make sense?
But vegans aren't saying humans are not like more valuable than animals.
I know. I've clarified that to Mike plenty of times. I don't even know why he's asking me at this point.
He said
I've literally clarified this since the beginning of the convo.
Yeah, so Parker said aesthetic value was the distinguishing trait between humans and non-humans that would justify harming them.
No, it's not, dude.
Yes, you actually. That's what you said, though.
No, it's not.
Okay, great. Let's do it again then.
Wait, can I just? So it seems like a better way to do this might be. Parker's agnostic on whether or not it would be okay to unalive a pig or a cow for a cheeseburger, but are you agnostic on whether or not it would be okay to unalive a human for a cheeseburger?
No, I'm not agnostic on that. And the relevant difference is that, again, the points I brought up. Did you remember my point? I can bring it up again.
Yeah, so you said it was a conjunction of sentience and being part of a species that meets some threshold of rationality. So I think, well, okay, so just to reiterate for the audience, like the question there would be what's true of the animal that if true of the human would cause you to be agnostic to whether or not the human, it would be morally right or morally permissible to unalive the human for a cheeseburger. I don't think sentience is, that just seems like something the cow and the human both have. That seems like a category error is like an answer. So the relevant part there would be just the being part of a species that meets some threshold of rationality.
How is it a category error if it's a conjunction?
Well, I guess one part of the conjunction would just be trivial there. I mean, the point is that the
no, because it's if both of them are true, this and this, then it would be true. It's not this or this.
Yeah, I realize that. But the point is that when we're asking for something that's different between the cow and the human. So naming something that is in common between the cow and the human.
Well, no, one meets these qualifications of having these two at the same time.
Gotcha,
right?
gotcha.
The other one does not meet this.
Gotcha. But the sentience thing isn't really doing anything. Like you can remove it.
It is because it's in conjunction.
No, it's not. It's not doing anything.
Okay, well,
yes, it is.
This is not important to get hung up on, anyways. So what is when you say being part of a species that has this threshold of rationality? Do you mean that they're part of a species where 51% or more of the members have this threshold of rationality, or what do you mean by that?
That would be majority. There would be some like arbitrary threshold that we'd probably outline, and that would all be applicable to different cases where I would have like intuitions about like this or whatnot, right? About like, oh, this species, whether or not it has it, right? There's not like a specific case where I'd be like, oh, it has like 17% of the species is rational, right? And then I'd be able to like, we wouldn't really have examples in real life to say this, right?
So so hold on. So you just mean that there's some, I thought you meant a threshold of rationality. You mean a threshold of members of the species which are rational.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that, you're not sure where that threshold is. That's fine. But it's somewhere, greater than animals where it's presumably 0, and then like less than humans where it's probably quite high, like 95 or something, right?
I mean, it would definitely be lower than 95. I mean, I can conceive of circumstances where 50% is like rational. I'd still care about that, right? Like,
okay.
But like, so we would have no like real world examples to apply that to or anything. So it's just all
that's fine.
Like hypothetical.
That's fine. So then, well, just to be clear, one last thing for clarity here is, what do you mean by rational exactly?
Like ability to reason or something like that. Like I would just use some typical definition,
like
or
maybe like
say higher
ability to make inferences.
Yeah, sure. You can
language,
say that.
all those sorts of things, or maybe some threshold of having those. Yeah,
just how we typically define the term rational.
So then, so then you said you don't think it's like 100% of humans that have this. It's something more like 90, 95, maybe even less. So if you were to take one of these humans that don't have this ability, maybe somebody who's severely mentally handicapped or something, and you were to find out that they were not part of the human species, that actually their genetic makeup was just different enough to qualify as a different species, would you be agnostic as to whether or not it's permissible to unalive them for a cheeseburger?
Well, I would ask, is that species going to be like, first of all, were they firstly human, but they were, are you saying they're never human? I mean,
they're never human.
So they were never human, right? And it is the case that they're not part of a species in which is majority rational.
Right. Well, it's not, it's 0% rational, actually. The species they're in is 0% rational.
The species is 0% rational, right? But they just like look human.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where Mike found the aesthetic difference. So I would say that like because they look typically human, I might value them more. But this is not the difference that I qualify for all humans.
Yes, it is.
Just like they look human, right? I might grant them more value than if they didn't look human. Does that make sense?
That's fine. But the question was, would you be agnostic to whether or not, would you be agnostic as to whether or not you could unalive them for a cheeseburger? Or would you positively say you can't?
Oh, I would positively say no, you can't, because I think that the aesthetic preferences of them being like typically looking human, right, would grant them enough value for me to care about it.
Okay, but then when you named that as your trait, you would have contradicted yourself.
Where's the contradiction?
Yeah, the contradiction is that what's true of the animal that if it were true of the human would make you agnostic to whether or not it's permissible to unalive that
can't use a separate standard though?
For cheeseburger is and is not having this threshold of, or belonging to a species that has some threshold of rationality. So it's both is and is not that trait. That's the contradiction.
No, because I'm applying a separate standard, right? It's like a completely different question. I'm not applying the original standard of the conjunction. I'm applying a second standard of, I also care about these aesthetic preferences. So the aesthetic preferences, I didn't even have to bring up in the first part of the conversation because we were just qualifying the difference between a human versus non-human where these particular traits would be existent. Whereas like I could care about the aesthetic preferences of a particular human to a greater degree and I wouldn't have to be agnostic on that. And it's again, a different standard.
Right, but the question
was...
How's
that a contradiction if it's a different standard?
The question was what if true, so if it were true of the human would cause you to be agnostic to whether or not it would be permissible to unalive it for a cheeseburger. So the thing that you named there was this threshold belonging to a species with threshold of rationality. That was what was if true of a human would cause you to be agnostic. So what I did is I made that true of the human.
Wait. No, that's not what I was trying to say. If true, it would grant a human more value. That's all I said.
Yeah, but that wasn't the question that you answered.
I wasn't saying if true, it would deny the value of the animal. Right? I was saying if true, it grants a greater level of value for human.
Wait, do you really? Okay, what question? When you named that trait, what question do you think you were answering?
When I named I was giving an answer to the question of what makes humans more valuable than non-humans.
I phrased the question like very carefully because I said, Parker, you're agnostic to whether or not it's permissible to unalive a cow for a cheeseburger. You said, yeah, I'm agnostic towards that. I said, are you agnostic to whether or not it's permissible to unalive a human for a cheeseburger? You said, no, I'm not agnostic. I think it is impermissible to unalive a human for a cheeseburger.
Maybe what I'm saying is that this isn't the only trait that, if true, would grant higher value.
Okay, so then I just want to make sure.
Like I can grant a separate standard. I don't see how this is a contradiction.
Wait,
I'm just granting higher value for humans.
I'm trying to explain. It's fine if you, so I just want to make sure that you understand, like before I move forward with your answer to this question, that you actually understand like the question that I asked. Because the question I asked is, since you're agnostic towards the animal case, you're not agnostic toward the human case. So I wasn't asked, this is what I was not asking. I was not asking what's true of the animal that if true of the human would make you not value the human more. That's not what I was asking you. What I was asking you is what is true of the animal that if true of the human would make you agnostic to whether or not the human, it's permissible to unalive the human for a cheeseburger. The same way you're agnostic in the animal case. That was the question.
So what trait, if true, would make it that I'm agnostic against animals? Maybe I misunderstood the question originally because I thought we were just referencing the difference in value. I appreciate the handout. Thank you so much. I wouldn't say that if it is true that the humans have this value, I would then be agnostic on the non-humans.
Okay, because what I was asking is.
So I must have misunderstood your original question.
Because what I was asking is like you're agnostic in one case and you're not agnostic in the other. So since I'm not running like name the trait as if you're positively saying it's permissible to unalive animals for cheeseburgers. I'm just seeing if there's something that if it were something true of the animal that if it were true of the human, you would be agnostic to the human the same way you're agnostic to the animal. So that was what I was asking, and then you gave that trait. But maybe you thought you were answering something else and didn't mean to.
I thought I was answering something else. I apologize.
No, that's fine. That's fine. What do you think your answer would be to that question?
I appreciate the Corky. Thank you so much. Of what would make it true amongst the human that doesn't exist of the non-human that would make me agnostic on the non-human?
What's true about the animal that if it were true of the human would make you say you're agnostic to whether or not the human should be unalive? It's permissible to unalive the human for a cheeseburger.
I don't know if I'm understanding the question.
It's almost the reverse. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Amder, but sometimes... So like there's something that is causing you to be agnostic about animals, right? Some set of traits. And so the idea is that what would have to change about humans such that you would be agnostic about them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What would have to change about humans and such? I would be, I appreciate the Corky. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, they would have to not be a part of a species in which is not majority, it meets a threshold of rationality and not be sentient.
Yeah. Okay. So then you would answer it the same way you answered it earlier, right?
So then it would just end up reducing down to if they're non-human, then it would be morally justified. Okay, I see what your point is there.
Yeah. Then if you give that answer, then if you say it's impermissible in the example I gave, then you would be contradicting yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So then, could you add like a standard of like you care about the context of like the family that existed for that? Like they had like this familial relationship, right, as a secondary standard, right? And you could say that the familial relationship with a particular set of humans, right, would have granted a greater level of value, right, in that type of way.
Yeah. So you could add to the conjunct. Well, this is the thing. If it's a conjunct, if it's like, A and B and C, then all three of the things need to be true. So even in the example I gave where two of the things wouldn't be true, adding one more wouldn't change your answer there. Now, maybe you would want to make it
I wasn't trying to...
A or B or C.
No, I think what I was doing was I was adding a second or, not second or, a first or onto it. So there's the disjunct is the I appreciate the Corgi thing, I mean the hand arts, is the what's it called? What the last trait I just said, right? And then the conjunct would be the first true traits of the human and then the sentience. Does that make sense? Gotcha.
So you're doing either it has these familial relationships or sentience and the sort of belonging to a species with threshold rationality thing. Yeah. Right? Am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So then I would just kind of modify the example, and it would be, you have the same thing. You have one of these humans who's severely mentally disabled, doesn't fall into the 90 or 95%. And
they're non-human. Remember you find out they're not human. So they're not human.
Yeah, you find out they're non-human. I'm just using human as just a label or a name almost. It's, yeah, we can call it schmooman, whatever. They look, they grew up, they kind of look like a human, act like a human. They're not in this 90-95%. We do a DNA test, we find out
they grew up and act like a human, so they are rational.
No, they don't act like a human in every sense. I didn't say they're rational.
Like they grew up in our society? Is that
in fact, it's actually stipulated that they're not. They're not in the 90 or 95%. But what happens is once we found out through this DNA test they were just different enough genetically to never actually be human. And then we also, like in a fluke accident, a tsunami hit the city where all their family lived in and killed them all. It was a real tragedy. And they don't have any familial or societal relationships.
They prior did.
No, they don't have anybody that cares about them now.
I mean, does that matter to me though? Like I care about the fact that there were people that cared about them in the past, even then.
I thought that if you want it to be the disjunct my understanding was they currently have people that care about them or family that cares about them, but is it?
I mean, you could say past or present and future cares about.
So there have been, is, or will be people that care about them. Yeah. I mean, then the
past,
scenario,
present and future. So like, yeah.
Yeah, then the example is just going to be the same sort of scenario, but their mother left them in the hospital, didn't care about them, didn't want them. As soon as she had them, she found out they weren't in the 90 and 95% and left them there in the hospital.
And they never interacted with any other type of humans, right?
They interacted
some sort of
with
communicative
people,
faction.
Nobody cared about them. Nobody will care about them.
So they were able to interact with people and like engage in language.
No, they're not part of the nine. They're not rational. They're like.
So they never communicated with any other human. Appreciate the subscription. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. They never developed familial relationships. They
might communicate in the way that cows or pigs do. They might communicate through some behavior.
Like they communicate like a pig. Sure, I'd be agnostic.
They're going to communicate with body language.
Corgi, thank you so much.
To the same degree that certain animals would.
Sure, I might be agnostic in that circumstance. Yeah.
Okay, you'd be agnostic.
Like they're non-human. They're not sentient. They have no relations with any other types of humans that have ever existed, right? Or would.
I don't know what you mean by relations. Do you just mean that there's people that care about them?
So people that care about them and people that have interacted with them in some sort of communicative fashion.
Yeah. Also, they are sentient. Animals are sentient. So
yeah, you can say that they're sentient. Yeah. I would just be agnostic on it. Yeah.
But yeah, so relations. Just to be clear, because maybe I'm not clear on this side of the disjunct. Relations is just so relations is interacting with in any capacity, interacting, having people that care about them. What is having relations with?
It could be through like communicative through like language or like a developed like relationship.
A developed relationship, like but a relevantly different one than what we have with animals. I mean, I think I have a relationship with my pet cat.
Yeah, and I think it would be wrong for someone to go and kill your pet cat.
You're not agnostic to that?
No, I'm not agnostic on that.
And if somebody like interacts with a pig, then you wouldn't be agnostic if that pig was killed in a factory farm either, or unalived in a factory farm.
Say that again?
If there was a pig that someone had like loved,
like a pet pig. Yeah, I don't think
it wasn't a pet. They just developed a connection with one that was in some factory farm. Maybe it was a worker or something.
If they developed like a relationship with it, sure, I would say it's wrong. Yeah,
it's wrong. Okay. So you just mean that they're either, so by relationship, you just mean either there's someone that cares about it, or what was the other one? It engages in language.
That would just be like a typical. That's not like a necessary or anything.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand broadly
what it means to communicate. Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand broadly or generally what is sort of captured in relation, because I think that we have, relationships with animals, and this is, or we at least can, have relationships with animals, and I want to make sure that this is a relevant difference that's actually being identified. But yeah, I think we can just say the same thing. Like there's people that interact. So there's this person that's not in the 90 or 95%. People interact with this person. Okay. People, they don't really love it. They don't really like it. They interact with it in the same sense that workers interact with the animals that we eat, right? And it doesn't communicate through English language, but it communicates through body language or certain
like
things.
The same type of body language as like a pig or a cow. I would just be agnostic on it. Again, they're not human. You keep saying that they're human because I think it's going to get people miss. No, I know you're saying that, but like for you understand what I'm saying, but like the people in the chat, they hear human. Right? They don't know the prior context of what you're saying. So I'm just trying to clarify. But
they look like your average severely disabled human. They just have different DNA. It's not anything external that looks different about them. So in this case,
Andrew, your thing is your thing only sentience? Is that it for you, or no? Is there more stuff?
In terms of what? I'm confused.
When you went to eat an organism, whether it's permissible to eat an organism or not.
Well, it might depend whether or not I have an answer to this name the trait question. I don't think it has to be sentience, because there's going to be different scenarios, right? So you might ask name the trait about one scenario and I might give one answer, and then you might ask name the trait about a different scenario and I might give a different answer.
Okay, so but generally speaking, if human, let's say there's a population of humans, and I don't know, let's say all Chicago became non-sentient, right? Would it be okay to eat them?
You said if all of Chicago became, so like they all became vegetables or something?
Yeah.
I think, I don't have an issue with I don't think that there's really a big deal with cannibalism other than like the ick or gross factor.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Yeah. Do you think that that's like a reductio or?
I mean, I'm grossed out by cannibalism, even if it were non-sentient bodies.
I'm grossed out by it in the sense I'm grossed out by like eating literal shit. Like I'm grossed out by that, but I don't think I would tell people it's like morally wrong to do or something.
Yeah, like if I found out they did even that lab meat, if I found out it was human meat, I wouldn't get near it.
Like if it was lab grown human meat, you wouldn't.
Yeah, you guys are sidetracking, right? We're not giving Parker the reduction.
That's true. Yeah, I think this is sidetracking, but I agree with you. It's weird. I agree with you. It's gross. I don't think that you would think it's like immoral for somebody to eat lab grown human meat, though. No. Maybe you would, but yeah. Anyways, just to quickly finish.
I think what Danny was just saying though is that you also apply those aesthetic preferences for being human, like well, typically people would, right? But so even if I were to hold to the aesthetics preference, which I wasn't there, right? It seems like you also, or not you, other people typically might hold to that.
I think Danny would agree that what he was saying there isn't directly relevant to like the line of questioning that we were on.
For you and Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there would be some. Yeah, I don't think it was directly like to Parker's set of preferences and values as to what is it called, trait equalization. Like, yeah, but I was wondering about yours, right? Like,
but wasn't it relevant to the aesthetic preferences we were talking about earlier, as it relates to like how it looked like a human, but it doesn't have any of these traits?
Andrew and I are grossed out by cannibalism, but we wouldn't like. There'd be look. If it was Chicago, I think then the fact that people knew these, previous persons, like that would probably factor in. But bracketing a lot of that stuff, like if we were growing or raising farm humans with no minds, right? Like, I guess I'm politically on board, but I'm sort of
like pea zombies or something. I think it would be gross.
Yeah, but we wouldn't be politically against it, right? Is that the idea?
It might depend more specific on the scenario. Like there might be some auxiliary reason kind of separate from this, or some pragmatic reason to be against it, or to say, or to like advocate against it, or try to make laws against it that aren't moral reasons. But I'm not sure I have moral qualms with it. But Parker, I didn't disallow you from saying aesthetic values is one of your disjunct or conjunct. You didn't name that whenever we were.
Yeah, no, I went off of that, but it seemed like people were holding that, so I was just bringing it up because it was something I brought up prior that I thought Danny was addressing, but I could have been mistaken there. But to go back to what you were asking, right?
Yeah, let me try to finish verbalizing the reductio. I mean, the scenario is just it looks like a human, probably some humans that you've seen. It's not genetically a human, okay? It's genetically different enough that it wouldn't be classified if they did a DNA test, and nobody interacts with it. Like people interact with this person or schmerson or whatever term you want to use, the same way that they would interact with like farmed cow or pig. They'll take care of its basic needs. They're gonna respond. They're gonna communicate through body language and things like that. Nobody particularly cares for their well-being. Are you agnostic on whether or not it would be okay to turn them into a cheeseburger?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. Okay.
Yeah, I would just be agnostic because like there's so many qualities that would be different that I wouldn't even think we're referencing the same type of stuff. The only thing that we could bring up is the aesthetics point, which I mean I'm agnostic on even if I hold to the aesthetics notion. But I mean I think it describes how I feel about like scenarios about like dead bodies and stuff like that.
But
so
I do think most people, like I think if you polled the audience, I do think most people would find this immoral. I don't think they would be agnostic towards it. I'm curious, Danny, do you share Parker's view here? Are you agnostic to that case, or?
Okay.
I'm not going to run you through the whole thought experiment. I'm just curious about this case, if you're agnostic towards it.
So what is it that is a population of humans that are not rational, but sentient, right?
They're like the people who Parker already thinks are not rational, like whoever maybe the more severely disabled people are among us who don't fall into this 90 or 95% of the species that are rational.
Not people. Something that he just says like has similar like characteristics, like traits, looks like human, right? But it's not human, right? And it's also it's never had any relation with humans where it's developed familiar relationships, communicative, like even like people in like school walking around just like talking to people, like stuff like that, right? It's only just like the same way that say like a pig has interacted with, or not even a pig has interacted with a like a worker, not that's developed a relationship with them, but one that's just not even engaged with, really.
I said it's like one of these people. It's all you did is you took one of these people, one who maybe already was treated in a bad way, who was like already treated this way, and you just took a DNA test and it came back they were never human. That's it.
Then there would have been that type of interaction.
No. They were always treated like a farm animal before this DNA test.
And then
back.
you just say you didn't even do DNA. You just had like some all knowledge that you figured out that this particular individual was non-human. Yeah. Right? Would you be agnostic on it?
Yeah.
Was that clear, Danny? I think yeah. We were just trying to clarify the question for you.
I thought you were. I zoned out. I'm sorry. You were talking to me. So wait. Yeah. It's the DNA comes out non-human, right? Yeah. It's not sentient, right? It is sentient, but not rational.
Well, it's sentient, yeah. It's sentient.
It's sentient.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt, guys, for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Parker, I just want to say I appreciate you having me here. Look, I'm a vegan activist first and foremost. I appreciate the philosophy bros here. But the problem is, I think that you're missing a lot of net utility that could be had if we were to go vegan. I think you missed the disease part, the economics part. I think we're missing these bigger factors here. Yeah, we're sure we can stick to NTT here, but I mean, there's so many other reasons. I mean, avoiding the next pandemic, I mean, economic reasons, health reasons. There's so many valid reasons to go vegan that I think you just missed here today at the debate that I think you're just not giving any good enough attention to.
I don't think you really brought it up. So if you want me to respond to that, I already told you earlier that they would be treated similarly to how we treat.
The point is, I suggest you, I appreciate you being agnostic on these things, but I think that you should do more research and learn more about veganism in terms of what it entails. I think that would be beneficial for you and the people around you and the world around you. So I know you always talk about, being anti-bigotry and anti-homophobia, all these things, which is great. But I think veganism ties along with a lot of that stuff too. So that's all.
Sure. And I think that's why I've put a lot of questioning into this, and I'm constantly questioning this. That's why I want to have conversations with this off live and stuff like that. I typically do that. And that's also why I don't come on here and argue against vegans, two backgrounds.
Why not on live?
Again, because I haven't had a fully set up view on that. Similarly to I don't have conversations about Israel and Palestine every single day on live, right? Because I don't have a fully fledged out position where I'd be able to debate people in a proactive manner, right? I do have a position on it, but I don't have a fully fledged out position where it would be even effective for me to be on here debating it every day, right? I think that there are people who would be more suited to debate those types of things.
Yeah, I think you're not taking it seriously in terms of the potential implications of veganism.
What makes you think I'm not taking it seriously?
Well, from the debate you had last time with the vegan teacher, I think you completely put it in a wrong light.
What specifically? I don't know what you're talking about. I literally, I told you when I clarified this to you, Mike. Let me finish, Mike. I told you I clarified this to you. That live was not specifically about her being vegan. That live was about her saying it's okay to use blackface, her saying it's okay for white people to say the N-word, right? Yeah, her using the N-word in a video on YouTube in front of millions of people. Yeah, that's specific. Can I please finish, Mike? I let you finish, right? I that's what I'm specifically referencing, right? We had vegans on the panel. There were multiple vegans on the panel that were calling her out, right? The vegan stuff that was brought up, that's because she wanted to question me while coming up on the live. And I gave my responses, but again, that was not the main point of the vegan teacher in that scenario.
That's my point, right? My point is that you took advantage of the vegan teacher's persona as it seemed negatively on the internet. You took advantage of that, and you put 6 other people on the board with you that laughed at her, mocked her, called her names. I'm sure maybe the vegan teacher
called her racist for using the N-word.
Okay, that may be the case, but what you did was made a lot of people who actually are vegans really upset because you exploited her persona to make veganism look bad, right? You have people.
No, I clarified many times in that debate. If you actually watched it, that this is not specifically veganism. I actually literally specified that during the debate. You can ask the vegans that were on the panel. You can ask Carbon. You can ask Athena. They're both vegans that were on the panel that made this clear multiple times on the panel.
They were disingenuous too about the vegan teacher, but you exploited that too. Right?
Wait, they're vegans.
Look, there was a tornado.
Disingenuous saying that she's racist for saying the N-word?
Parker, there was a tornado, and you took advantage of the tornado and turned it into this bigger storm than it had to be. Why? Because somehow it seems like you have a grudge against veganism. That's what it seems to me.
I literally don't have a grudge against veganism. You're just misrepresenting what I did.
That's why I came here today to press you on this issue, which you said, I don't know, right? You're agnostic. Well, that's cute, but it doesn't actually help anybody around you to be agnostic and not debate these things, right? That's all I'm here for.
Okay, I don't have a fully fledged position on animal ethics.
Look, so. I appreciate you being here and having me on. I really do. But I think you got to pay more attention to these issues. Okay?
Oh, sure. You could say I need to pay more attention to these issues.
Thank you.
Wait, can we go over? Okay, can we go over the case? This time I'll pay attention.
I did. I was gonna, after this was done, I was gonna go back to asking Danny the question because I was interested in his answer.
Yeah, what was it? I was interested too.
Oh, he just
the scenario was okay. So Like
they look like humans, right?
Well, this is the thing. So there's the trait that one of the traits that Parker named is being part of a species that has a threshold of rationality. Now, whatever this threshold is, it's less than 100%. Parker says, yeah, there's something 5-10% of humans that don't meet this. So take
Wait, Andrew, before you finish this, I just want to let you know, once we finish this little like dialogue tree, I was going to get off for the night, but I just wanted to let you know before so people didn't think I was like running or something. But yeah,
no, that's fine. I do want to talk about like the calorie surplus stuff and maybe some of your other concerns at some point, but we can try to do it at a later date. That's totally fine.
Yeah, if you want to do that, or you can bring it up if you'd really like to. But we can always bring that up.
There's probably a lot more to talk about, but yeah, Danny. So take someone who already is just not among the population that's rational, and they're already like there's somebody who's also treated really badly. So they're all already treated and interacted with by society and the people around them in similar ways that farm animals are treated. And then we take a DNA test and it comes back that actually this person was never a human. They're just different enough DNA to not be a human. Would you be like agnostic about whether or not it'd be permissible to turn them into a cheeseburger?
I lean towards impermissible. I mean, I'm sort of, this is very similar to the Westworld robots, right? Like,
I didn't watch Westworld.
Because I'm against the abuse of Westworld robots. I don't even know if they're sentient or rational. Like, okay. So I don't know. Like, if y'all don't know what Westworld's a great show, but like they create this park where they're machines, but they present as human. They can bleed and all that stuff. And people go into the park and grape them, kill them, and do all sorts of things. And then they repair them to go back out. And I thought that was disgusting. I didn't even have to know that they were sentient or not. So it seems like I lean towards impermissible here.
Yeah, I do too. And I have a feeling a lot of people would, but I don't have empirics on that. It just very, it seems pretty obvious to me, but I don't need to touch on anything else right at this moment if you have places to be and things to do.
Well, and I don't know if you caught me earlier. Sorry, Parker. I don't know if you caught me earlier. Like I'm totally inconsistent with my values, but I'm like, I optimally I'd be vegan, but I'm too lazy and I like the taste of meat. But I'm just not bothered enough to like change. I'm like basically a moral couch potato.
Maybe I send you some recipes or something.
Yeah, I've never been to a bad vegan restaurant. I've every bit of vegan cooked, like any kind of vegan dish I love. Like I probably should be vegan, but now the problem is that like my wife is Chinese and she loves her meat, like absolutely loves her meat. So like I talked to her about veganism, but she's like, no way. But maybe for health reasons. So maybe if we get like heart disease, we'll switch over. I don't know.
Do you think something that could be holding you more to it is the fact that you have people you care about that aren't vegan? Because this is something I've considered about myself. Like why, like a specific reason I could be like intuitively vegan, right? Could have been from like the fact that people around me, right, aren't vegan, right? Like especially people in my family, right? And it would be hard for me to justify, having these bad opinions about like these people I'd care about. So do you think that comes like in between you and becoming vegan, Danny?
Oh no, I'm just lazy and morally lazy. That's all it is. It's not. I disvalue pain, suffering, anything that even looks like it. Right? Like I just don't think that's optimal. I think and I bet Mike. I don't know anything about the practical studies, but it seems like I would bet that there's something to it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and this is something I wanted to question. I want to preface this as this is no argument against veganism, just something I heard recently. Again, clarify, no argument against veganism, just clarifying. I just want to know like what your perspective, MDR, would be on it. How do you feel about like how most vegans would, end up eating meat, right, in their lives, like after the point in which they declare themselves vegan? Like they turn away from being vegan? Like is that something that you see as like
why did they do that? Is that what you're asking?
I mean, I could ask why, but I'm also just asking like, what are your thoughts about it? Like, I'm not really asking like a specific question, kind of like a vague, like, what are your thoughts about, like, do you think it's bad, right? Or do you think that there's something about veganism that leads to people doing this? Or
I mean, clearly, if I think that like killing animal or paying for animal unaliving is bad, then I'm gonna think somebody going back to supporting animal aliving is bad. Why they do it is a psychological question that I haven't investigated. I don't know if there's any other questions in there that you want answered. It's just a little vague for me.
Why is the emphasis on veganism rather than on vegetarianism? Like, what's the gap there, by the way?
What's the gap? Like, why?
Like how do you see vegetarians as like, is it like someone that's trying to give up soda and they're just drinking like Diet Coke? Is that how you see, like, how do you see?
Do you mean like, why do vegans get so annoyed at vegetarian? Like,
I don't know. I'm asking because you never see like people that push, you see the pushes for veganism rather than vegetarianism. And I
think it's just that like a lot of the reasons people are vegan are like would just also apply to meat and eggs, just because the conditions are similar. But the way they get it is similar. That like they also, when they stop laying eggs or stop producing milk, they just unalive the animal.
Real question though, why I don't know why we care about fish. Like do you like that's an I feel nothing toward fish.
Yeah, low key, I'm kind of the same on that. I was kind of thinking about that recently. I can't think of a distinction.
I look at fish like robots, man. I don't look at pigs that way. I don't look at cows or poultry. I look at fish like robots.
Yeah, I definitely have more value that I place upon like pigs and cows and stuff like than I would place upon like fish.
I mean, I think that there's decent evidence that fish have experiences. I don't have it in front of me right now. I'd have to have a separate conversation where I kind of brought a little bit of this research along. But I mean, the things I care about things that have experiences. And I think that there's fish probably have those from what I've seen. They certainly display things like pain behaviors. Those tend to court.
Yeah, it's hard. I agree. It's hard to detect though. It is hard to like, I guess, relate to. It's hard to relate to a fish. It's easier to relate to a cow, I think. But I guess before we go, I'm keeping Parker. And I lost my train of thought, but it had to do with fish. Anyways, thanks for coming on, Amder. I'll have to message you. Oh, guys, follow Amder. He's like one of the smartest people I know. So I go to him when I have questions. So
thanks, Danny. All right. Thanks for bringing me up, Parker. Thanks, Danny. Talk to you guys later.
Of course. Good seeing you, Amder.
Yep. See ya. Bye.
All right, y'all. I am going to get off for tonight. I do appreciate everyone coming on tonight. It was a longer day today. I do actually have a lot of that recorded. I have 2 separate clips, so it probably will be like a part 1 and part 2 if people do want to see it and whatnot. I do appreciate everyone who did come on today. It was a different type of debate. I'm not typical to do these types of debates. Again, I don't really see much utility in debating vegans, right? I would see way more utility in like debating veganism if I like was a vegan, I feel like. But like, yeah, maybe someday I'll be vegan. I appreciate the handouts. Thank you so much. And whatnot. But yeah, no, I appreciate every single one of you. Tomorrow I will be on probably around, what day is it tomorrow? Tomorrow is Thursday. Tomorrow I'll be on like 12 like noon Pacific Standard Time. So yeah, I'll see y'all later. Love y'all so much. Have a fantastic night, everyone, and peace out, y'all. Oh, actually, fuck. I wanted to say this. I forgot. Wait, chat. There were multiple people that sent me donations. I want to say thank you. I fucking completely forgot. I apologize, everyone. I wanted to do this because I literally didn't cut people off. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to to do this, but I literally I didn't say thank you because I didn't want to cut people off today. Sin Studio, thank you for the $6.66. Emily, thank you for the $10. Hot Dog, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Bree, I appreciate it. Jasmine, Monet, I appreciate it. PGs, Mula. Right, Molly, Kenna, thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate y'all. Jody, Polly, Kenna, right, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all. Along with, let me go to Cash App real quick and make sure I say thank you. Brandon, thank you for the $50 twice. Thank you so much, Brandon. I really appreciate that. That's fucking crazy. Thank you so much, Crystal. I appreciate it. Brat Baby, thank you so much. Delaney, I appreciate Lithium. Thank you so much as well. All right, y'all. I'm going to get off. Love y'all so much. Peace out, everyone.